So shall we start with it?
Very good evening to all the participants. So we are just waiting for a couple of minutes to start the session. So let all the participants join in. We shall start at 402 or 401.
Good afternoon, Sanjeev Ji.
Has Sanjeev Ji joined?
Just
Because I'm unable to.
Yes, sir.
Unable to view him.
I am just Ankit. Sanjeev sir has already joined. Could you please make him co-host? Sir, very good evening, sir.
Very good evening. Good evening.
Sanjeev Ji, namaskar. Good evening. Sanjeev Ji, कैसे हैं? बस good.
English bhai, all well. Good to see you.
Likewise.
Namaskar, Sanjeev Ji.
Region, northern region.
Thank you जी. Nice seeing you, Sanjeev जी. जब प्रोग्राम शेड्यूल देखा तो मैंने सोचा कि चलो इस बहाने आपसे मुलाकात होगी.
नहीं बिल्कुल यज्ञेश भाई.
Yeah.
Shall we start for the day, sir?
Yeah, absolutely. From my side.
Sushant, all on your part. You can start it. Take it forward.
Good. So I welcome everyone here, every participant, every faculty, my senior members, my fellow members, my brothers and sisters. So this is a series which is hosted by Aftp, Webtel, and Gyan ki Baat. So this is a series about Ind AS, which is a very hot topic. And since we have already seen there are so many been transitional impact on the balance sheets with respect to Ind AS and converging from accounting standards to Indian accounting standards. So let me give a very brief introduction about Aftp. Aftp is a professional body, which is a national level body which constitutes of chartered accountants, company secretaries, CMAs, CS, and it is working for the profession and by the profession. Aftp has been divided into various committees such as audit assurance, IDT, banking and finance, and there are various executive members which are spread around the nation. Aftp has been delivering various value enlightening and very knowledgeable seminars with respect to GST, Ind AS, and many more to come in coming future. So presently we have around 500 members and 250 executive members which are playing an active role for the profession and by the profession. So since I have already told that this webinar is in association with Webtel and Gyan ki Baat, which is headed by Gyan Chand Mishra Ji. So going forward with Webtel, Webtel is an online as well as offline e-commerce solution provider which provides TDS, TCS, GST, and many more corporate compliance related softwares. Now let me going forward with Gyan Chand Mishra Ji. Gyan Chand Mishra Ji has been very academic and very outstanding student throughout. He's a fellow member of the ICAI, associate member of the Institute of Company Secretary. He has also qualified law, and he's an insolvency professional. He expertise in assurance and stock market operations as well. Gyan Chand Mishra Ji has been chairman of CIRC, past chairman of Ghaziabad, and he is presently co-opted member of Committee on Public and Government Financial Management. He possesses about 22 years of proven professional track record and has been instrumental in contributing towards the cause of social welfare. He is a founder and managing partner of Gyan Praveen and Associates. I would also like to add that Mr. Ji possesses excellent exposure and expertise in activities related to SEBI, FMC compliance, and corporate law. And he has also served as a resource person at various levels of the institute and other professional bodies. Now, I would like Mr. Shubham Ji to introduce Sanjeev Singhal sir and also Shri Preetam Ji. Shubham Ji?
I hope my screen is visible.
there is a communication error. So Shubham from Webtel can take it forward, and thereafter we can introduce guest of honor for today.
Is my screen visible?
Yes, Shubham.
So first of all, I'm very sorry because my video won't be visible. I've connected through a internet connection, so there is a very low bandwidth. Without taking much of time, I would like to introduce Webtel. We are a 2-decade-old company and first in XBRL and TDS compliances. So here's a small outlook at the journey of Webtel. Now, going ahead, as we all know, the host of this webinar, AFTP, and the president of AFTP, CA Pitam Goyal ji, Webtel has introduced a special CA week celebration, and we have associated with AFTP for this special celebration, and we are offering on the outset a special discounts to all the participants of this webinar on our very famous product, Virtual Office, which is a website for professionals. Pitamji, if you want to add a few points in this before I can proceed ahead.
So thank you, Shubham. So as we are already short of time and we need to have kind words from our guest of honor, and we need to start the session soon. So that is all. Now to introduce Sanjeev Singhal Ji, our guest of honor for today. He definitely needs no introduction when we talk about. He is the current Central Council member of ICAI for the term financial year 2018 till 2021. He is the chairman, it is from 19 till 2022. He is the chairman for committee of members in practice and has taken up new and very innovative steps. After doing graduation from SRCC, he has much more than 20 years of experience in auditing, advisory, and audit. He has contributed to build trust as well as confidence as a leader through his industry acumen, experience, and insight. He has served as the vice president of finance in top companies like Religare and Jubilant Life Sciences. He has been the associate professor at the Ford School of Management and IP University. He has worked closely with various industries such as CII, FICCI, etc., as well as various accounting regulators such as MCA, ICAI, NACA. As a government nominee at NACAS, he has worked towards development of quality accounting standards as well as implementation guides while ensuring that the industry interest is duly protected. We welcome you on, sir. We would like you to address the participants with the theme of this Ind AS series, sir.
Thank you very much, Pitam ji, my very good friend Yagnesh Bhai. Yagnesh Bhai has been both a student and a faculty at the Ind AS course. So very sweet memories of Yagnesh Bhai. 2010, when the IFRS course at the institute started. So he was a student at the Mumbai batches. And after that, he's been,
very well, yeah.
And after that, he's been converted into a star faculty. He's the MOC. He's the first choice for a MOC for all our programs in the ASB. Only when he refuses that he is not available, then we think of someone else.
I think संजीव जी एक ही मर्तबा मैंने मुझे ना कहनी पड़ी and उसके लिए मैं लज्जित हूँ, क्षोभित हूँ.
अरे नहीं,
I'm sorry about that.
Yagnesh Bhai. So national international program, Yagnesh Bhai is the only choice, and his Bollywood style of speaking you will discover when he's speaking. Many of the film stars are Yagnesh Bhai's clients. So whenever you visit Mumbai, of course, nowadays visits may be limited. So you can certainly use Yagnesh Bhai good office to meet them to the extent they are available. I'm not making a promise on behalf of Yagnesh Bhai because that's extremely difficult.
You all the right, Sanjeev ji.
Yeah. So this is a very nice program that's been organized by Pitam, and he was mentioning to me that he's expecting 500 participants and 461 are already there.
Yes.
Which is really a remarkable achievement because these days webinars have become the order of the day. Institute itself has organized more than 5,000 webinars in last 1 year. So more than 10 webinars a day Institute is organizing. And I think an equal number, if not more, are being organized by people like Pitam and others. Ethan is a very young and dynamic person, and of course, he is running into the Northern Region Council NIRC elections also. So my best wishes to him.
Thank you, sir.
And this topic which is chosen is a good topic, although there is no dearth of the literature which is available in the Ind AS phase now, and not only Ind AS. I'll say every topic. When I speak to Girish Ahuja sir, that sir, we need your time. So he was counting actually. He says charitable trust I've addressed 40 times. This topic I've addressed 50 times. This topic I've addressed 30 times. So why don't you people use the YouTube videos? Well, the reason is known to everyone. Everyone wants to, personally meet and greet Dr. Girish Ahuja. And similarly, the topic on Ind AS also. We have run more than now 300 batches from the institute, 300 batches of full course, but still people want to learn, ask the questions in their own comfort zone. And let me also tell you that from the institute side, the Accounting Standard Board, of which I am the vice chairman, we have already hosted videos on each AS and Ind AS, which are 20 minutes each. And we also have very brief booklets containing the overview and apart from the overview, the disclosure checklist for all the accounting standards and Ind AS. We have, we have, we have already posted videos. I think there is a delayed.
Yes, yes. You can, Sanjeev sir, you may continue, sir, for a kind words.
Fine. And 2-3 things that I would like to tell, that after a gap of 40 years, because Accounting Standard Board was formed in 1978, and in 2021, what we have done is we have simplified accounting standards for non-corporate entities, which will help all my small and mid-sized practicing firms. Because when I've done the outreach last year, the feedback that I was receiving was that 70 to 80% of the practice of the practitioners, particularly small and mid-size, comprises of the MSME clients, non-corporate clients, MSME client. So that's why in one stroke, what we have done is that we have reduced the number of applicable standard to the micro level entities where the turnover is less than 10 crore rupees or the borrowings are less than 2 crore rupees to only 16 from the earlier 27 accounting standard. Earlier 4 were exempt, so 23 were applicable. Now only 16 are applicable, and out of 16 also in 8 standards, we have given some disclosure exemptions. Secondly, in the committee for member in practice, we have already issued the RFP for 4 digital audit tools: audit documentation tool, data analytical tool, digital library, and practice management software. I sincerely hope that this will change the way the practitioners do the audit. This will significantly improve the audit quality, and we intend to provide these audit tools free of cost to the members for the first year at least. To give you an idea of the cost, normally if you go to the market and want to buy one license, each of these tools, at least audit documentation and data analytical tool, will cost you 50,000 to 1 lakh. For example, the data analytical tool itself, the idea case sphere is 50,000 rupees per license. And from the institute side, it is our endeavor to provide this free of cost for the first year and then at a nominal charges. And those charges will also be, as I said, nominal. Similarly, practice management software and digital library. Today, you may be subscribing to Taxman or.
Sanjeev sir, just in addition to this, as a firm, we have already enrolled for this softwares, and friends, in all our AFTP groups, we have already circulated this the audit tools which Sanjeev sir is talking about. So we definitely request in each and every one of us to get registered and take benefits of these tools while working for the clients.
Registration date is over, Pritam bhai. It was 30th of June. We can look at extending if we receive requests. 21,000 members have already registered. And 10,000 members said that they want additional license for their non-CS staff on payment basis. So 31,000 requests we already received. We are willing to fulfill all requests. Even if there are 1 lakh requests, we're fine. So if required, probably we can extend it. If the members will demand, I can discuss with the president and we can extend it. So then, see, the idea is similarly income tax cases and GST cases you may be subscribing. So the overall cost, if you put at you for one license, one may need to invest about 2 lakh rupees for all these 4 tools taken together. And as a service to member, we intend to provide these, as I said, free of cost for the first year, and then nominal cost. And the nominal cost, we have not seen the bids so far, but maybe not more than 5 to 10,000 rupees a year instead of 2 lakh rupees. So we don't know. We don't know what's going to be the quotes. So as of now, we don't know. There is an IT purchase group which will evaluate these quotes, and then we'll be able to tell. But that's going to be a huge step for capacity building. Third, we have now come out with 29 welfare and discount schemes for our members. 29. 28 were earlier there, and on 1st July, we added 29th. And that is, in fact, from our CA Parivar, we were already giving it that those students who have lost their parents during COVID, we said we will sponsor their CA education. Whatever is the fee payable to ICAI, that our CA Parivar will pay. However, now the institute itself has said that institute will give a 100% fee waiver to such students. So that's a 29th scheme. So now, instead of COVID impacted students, we may also look at alternative students. So if you know a student in need who's in financial distress and want to do CA, is unable to pay his fees to ICI, you can refer that student to us, and CA Parivar will reimburse the fee that they may have paid to ICI, or we may also directly pay to the ICI, the full 3-year course fees.
Congratulations.
And there is no limit on the number of students that we can sponsor. 50, 100, 200, there is absolutely no problem. During COVID also, I mean, that's been our endeavor to work to the fullest possible for the benefit of our members. And these 29 welfare schemes, which I'm saying, ranges from free software to discounted medical insurance product. For example, New India gives a heavily discounted medical insurance policy. There is LIC term insurance. Of course, the amount is 10 lakhs only. We are trying to get it increased. And then with Ease My Trip and with Samsung Electronics, you can buy their products at a discount which they offer to their employees. Bharatla House and commercial publisher gives you discounts. There is a tie-up with HP for laptops for interns. There's a tie-up with Quick Heal Antivirus. And recently for our young practitioners, we have now negotiated with Tally. And now for the first 5 years of your practice, that those who have become member after 2015 onwards, you will get 80% discount on Tally. Earlier, it was only for 2018 onwards. Similarly, for Dr. Lal Path Lab, we have agreed a discount of 20% on all the tests that you may do with Dr. Lal and 10% discount with Medanta. I remember these by heart because one has personally negotiated most of these schemes, and we are also trying to see that if medical insurance limit can be increased to 1 crore rupees, including a treatment outside India, that you can go anywhere in the world and get yourself treated. So we may soon come out with such schemes by the end of this month. We have already posted an expression of interest. We have received some expression of interest, and we hope to launch these schemes. We are also talking to Microsoft for discounted products, because if you really use Microsoft, some of my SMP friends are using it. They said they pay 1,500 rupees per user per annum, and you have entire access to MS Office, Teams, Outlook, and you also get 1 TB of cloud storage space. So besides the Ind AS, these are the immediate benefits which are available to you. And as I said, 29 to be precise, and most of them you may find themselves useful. There is no minimum guarantee that the institute has given. So you can avail any of these benefits. The details are available on cmpbenefits.org. Let me also talk about for a minute the opportunities available in the non-financial information space. I am the chairperson of the Sustainability Reporting Standard Board. And in Sustainability Reporting Standard Board, we have issued the first ever auditing standard on the sustainability audit. So as chartered accountant, now you can audit the non-financial information also. And we have started a certificate course for this from the Institute on business responsibility and sustainability reporting. 5 batches have already happened. 2 exams have already happened. And about 225 members have already cleared the exam. In first batch, 109 cleared. In the second batch, 118 members cleared the exam. And now I'm working with the Security Exchange Board of India, in which the SEBI has agreed that chartered accountants can now do social audits. So the NGOs will be able to list themselves on social stock exchange, and the social impact audit can also be audited by social impact audit can be done by the chartered accountants now. Recently a report was published from the SEBI. And we are also working with the Niti Ayog for a private sector participation in the development, in the achievement of the sustainable development goal, and how to work around a reporting format for the same. Uh, uh, I'll I wanted to talk more, but there is a constraint of time at my end. At 4:30, there is another engagement. However, let me briefly talk about. I'll try to extend by 5-7 minutes to the extent possible. Uh, so let me talk about the Ind AS, the background, because Ind AS is probably is a topic which is pretty close to my heart. Agnesh Bhai knows it. Since
Yes,
2009, we
very
are
much.
working in the space. So it's been 12 years, and that's been the passion. However, after coming to the council, we get less time to speak on technical topics and more on the general topics, which at times I get frustrated, because a technical person being converted into a non-technical person is neither probably good for me and nor for others. So that's why tomorrow I am speaking on a technical topic at ICAI platform on Ind AS 115. I was very keen that I speak on a technical topic. Okay, let me briefly share the journey of the Ind AS with all of you, that how these were issued in India. Um, so um, in in basically 2007, ICI decided to converge with the Ind AS. Now there are three terms which are used. One is a convergence, second is an adoption, and then within convergence there are so there are two terms, convergence and adoption, and within convergence there are three terms which are being used, uh, which are carve in, carve outs, and curtailment of options. Convergence means that we will make changes which we feel are necessary for the country. Adoption means that we will adopt the Ind AS as it is. So India has chosen the path of convergence. Now, within convergence, as I said, there are three terms: carve in, carve outs. Peter, I think there's an echo. I think my voice is being repeated.
Just
Uh,
a second.
yeah.
Ankit, could you please mute all of the participants except the co-hosts, and co-hosts will unmute themselves. Mute themselves.
Sir,
Yeah,
all
sir.
are already muted.
Sir, you can continue. I suppose now it will be okay.
Okay. So basically, uh, basically, uh, Carvin. Carvin means an accounting treatment which was not prescribed in IFRS, and we prescribed an accounting treatment for the same. An example is Annexure C to Ind AS 103 on business combination, where we have said in case of a pooling of interest business combination, in case of a common control transaction or business combination where subsidiaries, associate, or joint ventures are merging, then pooling of interest method will be followed. No such method was prescribed in IFRS 3. Since we prescribed a method, this is treated as a carve-in, and IASB has no problem with that. The second one is a carve out. Carve out means when no accounting, when a particular accounting treatment is specified in IFRS, and we give a different accounting treatment. For example, for property, plant, and equipment, the IAS 16 says that either you do a fair valuation or you apply IAS 16 retrospectively at the time of first time adoption of the IFRS. But in India, when we converge with this standard, we give one more option, which is known as para D7 AA of Ind AS 101, which says that if you were on Indian GAAP, you can use the previous GAAP carrying values. जो आपका previous GAAP का carry forward amount है, you can use the same amount. You can use the same amount as the opening balance of your property, plant, and equipment, intangible assets, and investment property. So this is a carve out because we are giving a different option. And carve outs also in India are of two types. One is an optional carve out. Second is a mandatory carve out. An optional carve out is where you have the option, and mandatory carve out is where there is no option, but you have to do it. So this is an optional carve out which I talked about, because three options are being given. An example of a mandatory carve out is a bargain purchase situation, Say, for example, when you acquire a business with net assets of, say, 100 crore and you pay 110 crore, 10 crore is known as goodwill, both internationally as well as in India. But if you pay 95 crore, the 5 crore in India is known as capital reserve, and internationally it is known as a bargain purchase, that you made a good bargain and it is credited to P&L. Now, this was not acceptable to us. अगर ऐसा करेंगे तो हिंदुस्तान में रोज P&L में ऐसे ही gain आता रहेगा. So we said nothing doing, it will go to the other comprehensive income or the capital reserve directly. So hence we made this carve out, and this is a mandatory carve out. So likewise, there are 7 carve outs now, and carve-in is 1. And then there are curtailment of options. Curtailment of options are when, suppose you have to go to Pitampura, and there are 3 routes. Suppose you are coming from Shalimar Bagh, and there are 3 roads which can take you to Pitampura. And we say, the traffic police says, sorry, 1 road is closed. You can use only 2 routes because of COVID-19. So this is a curtailment of option, that your 1 option has been curtailed. So it has more than 65 places we have curtailed the options to bring the uniformity in the preparation and presentation of financial statement. So carve-in and curtailment of option internationally, there is no challenge on that, and they don't see it as a problem. Carve out, yes, they are after us, they are after our life, that you remove the carve outs. But as a sovereign country, we decided to retain these carve outs. We may reduce 1 or 2 in the times to come, but otherwise the existing carve outs are going to continue as of now. Pritam bhai, 629 log ho gaye hain. Congratulations to you.
Thank you, sir.
Right.
And also there are it's live on our YouTube channel, so there are also more than 500 participants out there, sir.
So you have capacity of 1,000?
Yes, sir. We have a capacity of 1,000 on webinar, on Zoom.
Oh, so they are on the webinar mode.
Sir, they are on. This is on web. This is on Zoom, and we are also live on YouTube channel.
Okay, fine. So now, see, basically, what is the process of standard setting? I may not go into that right now because of the limitation of time. Let me talk about this roadmap which we developed. 2015-16, actually 2011 में account Ind AS का roadmap हम लेकर आए थे. 25th February 2011 को in 35 Ind AS were notified were hosted by the MCA on their website, and 3rd March को उन्होंने official gadget में वो notify किए थे. However, they couldn't see the light of the day because of the taxation issues. जब ये government अपनी first term में आई, तब Honorable late Shri Arun Jaitley ji announced at the floor of the House in his budget speech that India will move voluntarily to Ind AS from 15-16 and mandatorily from 16-17. तो 16-17 में ये बैंकिंग, एनबीएफसी और इंश्योरेंस कंपनी को छोड़कर जो लिस्टेड कंपनियां थी या अनलिस्टेड कंपनियां थी जिनकी नेटवर्थ 500 करोड़ और मोर थी, उन पे ये मैंडेटरी हुए, एंड पेरेंट सब्सिडरी एसोसिएट और जॉइंट वेंचर्स पर भी एप्लीकेबल थे. And 17-18 से all listed entities which were not covered in phase 1 plus the unlisted entities with a net worth of 250 crore or more उस पर लगे. 18-19 से एनबीएफसी और इंश्योरेंस कंपनी पे लगने थे, बट बैंक्स और इंश्योरेंस कंपनीज ने अपने आप को विड्रॉ कर लिया क्योंकि वो सेल्फ रेगुलेटर भी हैं. आरबीआई और आईआरडीए जो हैं उनके अपने रूल चलते हैं. तो एनबीएफसी पे तो लग गया 18-19 से 500 करोड़ से ऊपर की जिसकी नेटवर्थ है, और 19-20 से जो भी बाकी जो लिस्टेड एनबीएफसीज हैं प्लस एजी लिस्ट अनलिस्टेड एनबीएफसी जिनका नेटवर्थ 250 करोड़ से 500 करोड़ है. बट बैंक्स और इंश्योरेंस कंपनीज इसको डेफर किए जा रहे हैं, और अभी भी कोई ऐसी इंटेंशन नहीं लग रही कि अगले 1-2 साल में वो इंड एस पर आ जाएंगे. इंड एस के जो फीचर्स हैं, मैं देखिए इंड एस से बहुत इंटीग्रली जुड़ा हुआ हूँ, लेकिन मुझे फिर भी ये लगता है कि इंड एस में प्रूडेंस मिसिंग है. आईएफआरएस और इंड एस में प्रूडेंस मिसिंग है. ज्यादातर जो आईएफआरएस हैं दे आर डिजाइन टू शो मोर प्रॉफिट्स. हमारे अपने स्टैंडर्ड ज्यादा कंजर्वेटिव थे, ज्यादा प्रूडेंट थे. अदर फीचर्स आर सेम, गोइंग कंसर्न बेसिस, accrual basis, consistency, and an annual presentation. Of course, quarterly also you can do. Materiality, offsetting, and of course a comparative information needs to be given. Internationally Schedule 3 जैसा कोई concept नहीं होता है. हमारे यहाँ Schedule 3 का concept है, तो naturally वो presentation तो हमारी Schedule 3 से ही govern होती है. These are principle based standards. आपको judgment अपना लगाना है, and these are full of disclosures. disclosures. According to one estimate, there are over 3,000. There are over 3,000 disclosures which are there in IFRS if you put all the disclosures at one place. Substance over form. Form is the key. So basically, this is basically an overview of the background of the Ind AS which we have. And Pritam bhai, if you want, maybe I can join back at 5:30. If you want me to give an overview of each of the Ind AS. So there are about 2-3 slides, but that will take about half an hour. I can give a comparative of each Ind AS maybe in half an hour, but that will take half an hour. So if you want, I can be back at 5:30. And but otherwise, all the competent speakers are there. Yagnesh bhai is there, Alok is there. At least two of them I know personally, and others are also quite young and dynamic speakers. But I would not like to intrude into the time of Yagnesh bhai. So you may decide, and then you can let me know. But I'm sure that the participants will be immensely benefited with this program. Really, I can see that 637 participants, and as you said on the YouTube also. So I'm sure that they will learn a lot, and this program would prove to be quite beneficial for all of them. So my best wishes to all the participants and to you also for the upcoming Northern Regional Council elections as well. And in case you want me to join back, do let me know, and I'll join back at 5:30. There was some time overlap, and hence that's why I requested you that from 4 to 4:30 I can speak. But if you want, I can back at 5.
Thank you, sir, for your kind words. The initiatives which you have taken under your leadership at ICAI with regard to COVID was tremendous. When we talk about the opportunities which you explained for chartered accountants with regard to Niti Aayog and the SEBI are exemplary. You have already set up the tone for this Ind AS series for sure, sir. And it will be our pleasure in case you are available and you can join back us at our platform, sir. The thing is such that Yagnesh sir requires 2 hours to deliberate to give the details for the 3 Ind AS which he is having for today. And he has already confirmed to us that even 2 hours is less. So he already needed 15 to 20 minutes. So it will be better as a platform in case you can join us at 6.
I don't mind. Despite that, I don't mind, because to hear Sanjeev ji is a pleasure for even me also. And sorry to interrupt प्रीतम, एक चीज मैं कहना चाहता हूँ, मैं अपने आप को रोक नहीं पाया, ये दिल है कि मानता नहीं. And that is about Sanjeev ji's another aspect, another facet of his life, जो काफी प्रभावित है, काफी it will make us feel proud of him. During this COVID-2 wave, he had immensely done a lot of social services, and I believe, I don't know how many numbers, but he has saved many lives, and he has. If I may share your personal things, Sanjeev ji, उनके बेटे खुद बीमार थे, but चपेट में थे कोविड भी, फिर भी बावजूद उससे उन्होंने personal at the cost of his personal family and all this, he had been to help people. खुद के बेटे की परवाह करने वाला वो, he has helped so many people with oxygen.
Simple example, ambulance service which he has started was tremendous.
That's great. Yes. So Sanjeev ji, hats off to you. आपने जो बेनिफिट्स हमको सीएम पे भी दिखाया, लगता है वो बेनिफिट्स देख के कोई सीए बनने के लिए लाल हो जाएंगे, प्रॉम्प्ट हो जाएंगे. एंड ग्रेट सोशल वर्क डन बाय यू. ग्रेट.
Thank you so much. I'll join back at 5.
Thank you, sir, for your kind words, sir. Yagnesh sir,
And
I will
so,
just take 2 minutes.
सुनिए,
I will just take 2 minutes before the start of session.
नहीं कोई बात नहीं, बट अगर संजीव जी आते हैं तो मुझे कोई बात नहीं, व्यत्यय हो गया, बिकॉज उनको सुनना बहुत अड़ी है. एंड अगर आप चाहे तो मैं तो हूँ आपके लिए, कभी भी आ सकता हूँ. डोंट वरी, वी विल हैव माय सेशन सम अदर टाइम आल्सो. जो भी कुछ बचा कुचा रहेगा, आई देयर है, बिकॉज ज्ञान मिश्रा सर के साथ हमारे संबंध काफी पुराने हैं. एंड सेम गोज विद द अपना पुनीत जी, करेक्ट. सो आप तो मैं कभी बुलाएंगे आएंगे, तो अगर वो आने हैं तो वो आते हैं तो आने दीजिएगा. आई हैव नो इश्यूज एट ऑल.
Most welcome, Sanjeev sir. It will be a pleasure in case you will come over at 5:30, sir. In case you are listening to, or I will call you up, sir, Sanjeev sir.
आप बुलाएं, क्योंकि my session can be repeated some other time also. And मिश्रा जी बोलेंगे तो I have no right to say.
Thank you, sir. Sir, just before starting the session, so we missed one thing. I would like Gyan Chand Mishra ji to introduce his Gyan Ki Baat in a minute or so, sir, to start the session. Over to you, Gyan sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Pitam bhai. Good evening, all participants. Honorable Central Council Member of ICAI, CA Sanjeev Singhal Ji, CA Yagnesh Desai Ji, learned speaker of our fraternity, and of course, a brilliant and visionary person in assurance services. Friends, I think that we are running late. I will not take much time. Quickly, within 1 minute, I will sum up my deliberation. Gyan Ki Baat basically is a foundation. This is formed under Section 8 company. And we are basically focusing on education sector for last 3 years. And we have done a lot of things for the professionals of our community as well. We have certain schools to which we are funding for last 3 years, underprivileged students for their learning and education. And nowadays, after this corona pandemic, we have tried our best to provide the best professional updates at our end. Friends, यज्ञेश जी ने जैसे बताया, करीब 11 साल हो गए यज्ञेश भाई साहब से हमारी मुलाकात को. वो वेल सेड भाई संजीव भाई साहब, ही इज रियली ए हीरो ऑफ द प्रोफेशन. आप इनके साथ 4 घंटे भी सुनेंगे तो आप बोर नहीं होंगे. टॉपिक को इतना जिंदा दिल बनाते हैं और इस तरीके से रिप्रेजेंट करते हैं. मैं हमारे बीच में हमारे कुछ साथी सुशांत बासरा जी, सीए पुनीत शकुजा जी, माय टीममेट ऑफ ज्ञान की बात, सीए अंकुर तायल जी, माय टीममेट ऑफ ज्ञान की बात, and of course Pitam ji, who is co-hosting this entire Ind AS. So I welcome on behalf of Gyan Ki Baat to each and everyone. Very close to 700 participants are over here at the platform as of now. Great. And about 300 are watching on YouTube. I think that this program is hit. And Yagnesh bhai, मैं आपको बोलूँगा सर कि ये आपका मैजिक है कि एक बार हमें याद है, एक बार जब आप कंट्री में पहली बार आए थे गाजियाबाद, तो आपने कहा था कि कुछ मैजिक करके दिखाते हो. मैजिक हमें आज दिख रहा है 10 साल का.
Thank you. बहुत शुक्रिया.
It's really wonderful to listen always our elder brother Yagnesh bhai, and I welcome you from core of heart sir. जब भी हम आपको याद करते हैं, आप समय देते हैं. मैं बिल्कुल समय नहीं लूंगा. मैं चाहूंगा कि हमारे सभी पार्टिसिपेंट्स ट्यून रहें और यज्ञेश भाई को पूरे दिल से सुने, और उनको ऐसा लगेगा कि वो बिल्कुल आप बोरिंग टॉपिक आपको कभी नहीं लगेगा इन डेज, जैसा कि जनरली हम लोग सीएफआईएल में लगता था. And over to Pitam bhai, I will request that we should start the session immediately.
Absolutely,
so that the participants may get the benefit. Thank you.
Now,
thank the participants.
Now, just to start the session, I would like to introduce CA Shubham Gyan ji, our Executive Committee Member of Audit Assurance, to introduce CA Yagnesh Desai sir for taking the session forward. Over to you, Shubham ji.
Thank you, Pitam. So, when I was framing the introduction part of Yagnesh sir, so there was a lot to write here, but I have just written a crisp here. Good evening, everyone. I would like to thank Aftp, Gyan Ki Baat, and Webtel for coming together and organize a 6-day series with respect to the Ind AS refresher course. We would like to further introduce the attendees with CA Yagnesh Desai ji. CA Yagnesh Desai ji is a member of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India and the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants. Yagnesh ji has been practicing since August 1983 and has wide knowledge of audit, corporate and taxation matters. Yagnesh ji is actively associated with the activities of the Institute of Chartered Accountants and is IFRS trainer for certification course of Ind AS conducted by the ICAI, trainer for diploma in IFRS examinations conducted by ACCA of UK. Yagnesh ji has composed and delivered e-lectures for accounting standards for the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India and is a speaker on accounting and auditing standards at various seminars in the ICAI. Between April 2009 till date, he has delivered around 1019 sessions and seminars. in about 40 cities in India and abroad. This is his 1020 session. I would like to congratulate him on his 1020th session.
Thank you.
Yagnesh ji has been recently awarded as Icon 2020 to 2021 of Mumbai City by Times Group. Yagnesh ji likes comparing music shows and has actively participated in the marathons. He is co-opted member of the Accounting Standard Board of ICAI. I would like to thank Yagnesh ji to join the session as a speaker and enlighten us through his views and suggestions on Ind AS. Over to you, sir.
थैंक यू सो मच एंड मिश्रा जी, आपने कहा कि आपने बुलाया और दिल से हम आ गए, तो मैं कुछ ऐसे अंदाज में कहूंगा, तुमने पुकारा
क्या बात,
हम चले आए, दिल हथेली पे ले आए रे,
ग्रेट सर, ग्रेट सर, ग्रेट।
तुमने पुकारा और हम चले आए। जी हाँ दोस्तों, ये मेरा सौभाग्य है कि ज्ञान मिश्रा जी ने आज भी 10 साल के बाद भी हमारी दोस्ती को बरकरार रखा और मुझे एक मौका दिया टू शेयर माय नॉलेज विथ द लर्नेड क्राउड and all my professional brothers. Sir, मान गए आपकी ताकत को कि 656 number and still its counting is going on. That's great. That's really great. Amazing. मान गए सर।
थैंक यू सर।
एंड क्या प्रास बैठा है, ज्ञान की बातें और ज्ञान मिश्रा जी की बातें, क्या इत्तेफाक की बात है। सो आई मस्ट थैंक यू इन फर्स्ट प्लेस मिश्रा जी एंड देन माय डियर फ्रेंड पुनीत जी, जो एक पास्ट प्रेसिडेंट है, उनके कार्यकाल दरमियान भी आई हैड बीन टू गाजियाबाद एंड अगेन द AFTP प्रेसिडेंट प्रीतम गोयल जी, to everyone for giving me a chance to share whatever I allegedly know. Sir, and sir, अगर आते हैं डॉक्टर संजीव सिंघल जी, तो प्लीज उनको आने दीजिए। आप बोलोगे तो मधरात को भी मैं लेक्चर दूंगा आपको सर, डोंट वरी। Get my point?
Pleasure, sir.
Any time for you, Mr. Ji. Okay. So now,
thank you, sir. So nice of you, sir.
I believe, have you made me the co-host?
Yes, sir. You can share the screen. You can share.
I can share the screen.
Yes.
And I must welcome all the participants, and it's a great honor for me, I would say, and your institute that they are in great numbers. So सभी सुनने वालों को यज्ञेश देसाई का नमस्कार। So चलिए रुक करते हैं कुछ फिल्मी अंदाज में एंड देखिए सर, इंड एस पढ़ते हैं कि इतना, इसका मतलब ये नहीं कि वी शुड स्ट्रीट विद अ टाइट लिप्ड, हंसी मजाक नहीं कर सकते, ऐसा कोई किसी ने नहीं कहा, राइट। एंड जैसे हम ज्ञान भी कहेंगे और गम्मत भी करेंगे, राइट सर। That means we'll learn in a lighter vein, please. So the दायित्व मुझे बहुत कठिन दिया गया है, 3 स्टैंडर्ड महज 2 घंटे में करना है, बट वो मुश्किल लग रहा है। बट सर, माय कमिटमेंट टू यू, यू कॉल मी, कल और परसों थोड़ा मुश्किल रहेगा, बट मेक अ स्पेशल प्रोग्राम, सिर्फ और सिर्फ आऊंगा आपके लिए सर। Okay, whatever is left behind. So today we are going to study, in fact, 2 assets. One is Ind AS 16 property plan equipment, जैसे एक जमाने में कहते थे fixed assets, उनका नया नाम है property plan equipment, and that is again the name of our existing non-DS standard. So friends, this standard deals with the, as the name indicates, with the non-current assets, namely property plan equipment. There are some exceptions to it, and that is, sir, मिश्रा जी थोड़ा अगर सेकंड गियर या थर्ड गियर में हो तो प्लीज क्षमा कीजिएगा, बिकॉज समय कम है तो करना पड़ेगा। बट this standard itself I take normally 3 hours, sir. Actually, one in the 16 I dwell so much in detail that I take 3 hours. But anyway, sir, I जितना हो सके इधर न्याय देने की कोशिश करूंगा। मिश्रा जी, एक अगर आपकी इजाजत है टीम मेंबर की, तो एक आपसे एक गुजारिश है मेरी कि जितना भी सिखाऊं ढंग से सिखाऊं, सही सिखाऊं, ओके, रादर देन जस्ट टचिंग अपॉन एंड डूइंग द क्वांटिटी वर्क। I would like to believe do the quality work, अगर आपको एतराज ना हो तो सर, है ना?
सर बिल्कुल सर।
Okay sir. So basically this standard is applied. पहले देखिए सर, any standard, any gap, generally accepted accounting principles have got 4 cardinal pillars: A, recognition; B, measurement; C, presentation; and D, disclosure. जहां तक measurement की बात कहती है, the all property plans and equipment will be measured by Ind AS 16, but as far as Ind AS 116 is concerned, which deals with the leases, दोस्तों ध्यान रहे कि Ind AS 17 जो था, it was dealing with the leases, but now this has been replaced in financial year 1920 by the new standard on the leases known as Ind AS 116. तो Ind AS 17 आज की तारीख में उसकी कल्टी हो गई .com, and now it is replaced by Ind AS 116. The standard says that the recognition principle and the measurement principle will be as per Ind AS 16 leases, which says that लीज का मैं एक संक्षिप्त में कहूं क्योंकि ये बहुत न्यू स्टैंडर्ड है, मच डिफरेंट फ्रॉम व्हाट इट वाज अर्लियर. तो संक्षिप्त में अगर मुझे इजाजत है तो मैं कहूंगा छोटा विवरण. इंड एस 16 में, इंड एस 116, एक होता है लेसर, एक होता है लेसी, एंड दिस इज चेंज फ्रॉम द पर्सपेक्टिव ऑफ द लेसी. Now lessee will recognize right of use asset. जी हाँ, right of use asset, and don't mistaken that it is an intangible asset. No, though the nomenclature is right of use asset, it is still a tangible asset. Right of use may be for land, for building, and आगे आगे बताऊंगा कुछ एग्जाम्पल, कुछ उदाहरण के साथ कि ROU asset कैसे recognize किया जाता है. Then the property plant equipment classified held for sale under Ind AS 105. Ind AS 105 का नाम है non current asset held for sale. इसको ये and this standard is not applicable to those non-current assets which have been classified which have been classified under Ind AS 105, non-current asset held for sale. Now that standard is what, sir? When an entity owns the non-current assets mainly from the perspective of the tangible assets, जहाँ क्योंकि हम tangible assets की बात करें तो जिक्र उसी का करूँगा. Non-current assets, mainly tangible assets, when the entity decides to sell it, it has to classify under IFRS Ind AS 105. And when you classify under 105, वो Ind AS 16 के दायरे से निकल के 105 के दायरे में बैठ जाता है. That means it is then controlled by Ind AS 105, which says very important that if an entity has rightly classified a non-current asset as a non-current asset held for sale, it will stop depreciating it. ये बहुत बड़ा changes है. So it's not just a change in the nomenclature of the standard, बल्कि बहुत बदलाव है in the sense that entity cannot depreciate such assets. So sir, the moderated operator sir, I am bit disturbed by various videos of the participants. तो अगर उनके वीडियो अगर आप बंद कर सकते तो that will be great, except few members like Mishra ji here, because there are a lot of videos which are interrupting on my screen. So अगर आप वीडियो बंद कर देंगे तो ठीक रहेगा सर. Let me also try and do myself what best I can do here, but that will be taking my time, sir. ये मेरे व्यत्यय होगा, it will be disturbing me, that's why. So kindly try and please put off your videos. And the last one is the biological assets. यहाँ पे मैं जिक्र करूँगा biological assets are what which are covered by the Ind AS 41 agriculture standards. All agriculture products, all agriculture, like wood, mango tree, this tree, animals, these are all known as agriculture activities and agriculture products. But there is one change here. There is something called bearer plants. Now these bearer plants are what's a mango tree, tea bushes, coffee beans, coffee plants, and all these. These are known as the bearer plants. जी हाँ दोस्तों, now bearer plants are also considered to be property plant equipment. I mean कुछ हजम नहीं होने वाली बात है, but स्वीकार करनी पड़ेगी क्योंकि how can you say a mango tree is a plant? But it is a plant. From the perspective of Ind AS 16, तो ये बहुत बड़ा बदलाव है सर अपने आप में. So bearer plants are now considered to be the property plant equipment under Ind AS 16, but the produce on the agriculture on the bearer plants are not covered by these. They are covered by Ind AS 41 agriculture standards. जाहिर सी बात है कि the property plant equipment is meant to be used for the primary economic earning activities of the entity, and which is the production or the trading or the admin. So if an entity is using tangible assets either for the production or the supply of goods or maybe for trading, and maybe they are buying the admin office, they are building the factory, guest house, roads related to the factory premises and all this, they all considered to be the property plant equipment. मैंने एक चीज, एक लाइन को जानबूझकर छोड़ दिया. जी हाँ, वो लाइन है रेंटल्स टू अदर्स. हाँ, जब रेंटल्स टू अदर का जिक्र आता है तो मैं आपसे कहूंगा कि दोस्तों थोड़ा सचेत रहिएगा. जी हाँ, क्योंकि when it pertains to renting of land or building, or land and no building, or a part of land and no building, it is covered by Ind AS 40. तो जहां यहाँ तो जो स्टैंडर्ड में जिक्र किया गया है रेंटल्स टू अदर, वो केवल अदर देन लैंड and building or other than land or building की बात है. So if I am renting my plant, my equipment, or maybe my equipment or any other rights or something like that, franchisee, those will be covered by this standard, property plant equipment. जबकि land और बिल्डिंग की अगर रेंटल की बात आते हैं तो दोज विल बी कवर्ड बाय नॉट दिस स्टैंडर्ड बट इन डेज 40. अगर समय मिला तो हम उस पर भी कुछ गौर करेंगे. They have used the word and expected to be used during more than one period. अब one period का meaning है 1 year. Okay, okay, fine. And sir, एक और भी एक अच्छी बात एक बातें कहना चाहता हूँ सर आपसे, क्योंकि महज 2 या 3 घंटे में पूरा ज्ञान प्रदान करना मुश्किल काम है, कठिन काम है, अपने आप में बड़ी चुनौती है. सो बतौर फैकल्टी मेरा धर्म बनता है सर कि आपसे मैं कुछ चीजें शेयर करूं, कुछ टिप्स शेयर करूं जो आपको लंबे समय तक अपने करियर में काम आए. जी हाँ दोस्तों, एंड वो है व्हेन यू रीड any gap, generally accepted accounting principle, चाहे वो US gap हो, चाहे वो IFRS हो, चाहे वो कोई भी principles हो, you must read the framework in that standard. जी हाँ, framework for preparation and presentation of the financial statement, which is now rechristened, जिसका नया नाम है conceptual framework for the preparation of the financial statement. दोस्तों आप कहेंगे कि ये कुछ ज्यादा ही कह रहे हैं, बट जरूरी है सर, बिकॉज फ्रेमवर्क बुनियादी है, इतनी बुनियादी है, इतनी अहम चीज है कि इवन द अकाउंटिंग स्टैंडर्ड बोर्ड्स मेंबर्स, or for that matter the international accounting standard board members also pursue, वो भी इसे they read and they go through it, they take the help of the framework. एक सिंपल सी बात बताऊं सर, जब बहुत से खैर अभी वो जब कोविड नहीं था हम फिजिकली जाते थे, उसकी बात ही कुछ अलग है. क्यों मिश्रा जी, ज्ञान साहब, उसकी कुछ बात ही अलग थी सर. मैं तो क्राउड में पार्टिसिपेंट्स में बिंदास घूमता था, उनसे प्रश्न पूछता था, अगला प्रश्न आपके. सर
वो अलग ही मजा होता है सर जब आप क्राउड में होते हैं.
उसकी मजा अलग ही थी सर. सर ये क्या कोई कर रहा है सर, someone is fiddling around with this thing, please. I think that only the moderator can stop this. If a moderator can stop this, yes, thank you so much whoever has done it. So एक बहुत बुनियादी ढांचे की बात कर रहा हूँ सर. अगर आपको अव्वल नंबर पे इंड एस में जाना है तो प्लीज रीड दिस डॉक्यूमेंट कॉल्ड कंसेप्चुअल फ्रेमवर्क. तो हाँ, मैं कह रहा था सर, व्हेन आई आस्क अ क्वेश्चन अबाउट elements of financial statements, so बहुत बुनियादी सवाल मैं पूछता हूँ, तो what are the elements of financial statements, and normally people rattle the answer: balance sheet, profit and loss account, cash flow statement, statement of changes in equity, the changes in equity, there are all the elements of financial. मगर दोस्तों, elements of financial statements in fact are A, assets, B, liability, and C, equity. These are the elements of balance sheet oblique statement of financial position, जबकि income and expenses are the elements of income statement. So ये बुनियादी बातें कही है सर इस literature में, but unfortunately that's one of the most neglected sibling of an accounting literature. ये कोई इसे गौर नहीं करता. अब आपके सामने जो पर्दे पे देख रहे हैं, it's probable that the future economic benefit will flow to the entity and the cost of the item can be measured reliably. ये सब requirements है ये framework में. आप देखेंगे कोई भी स्टैंडर्ड्स की बात करते हैं सर, तो ये मोस्टली ये स्टैंडर्ड्स में रिकग्निशन क्राइटेरिया है. मैंने आपसे जिक्र करके कहा था कि ए रिकग्निशन, बी मेजरमेंट, सी प्रेजेंटेशन एंड डी डिस्क्लोजर. जहां तक रिकग्निशन की बात करते हैं, दिस आर द 2 कंडीशंस टू बी फुलफिल्ड. सर बम्बईया भाषा में इसे कहते हैं, ए भाई साहब आपने एंट्री मारी क्या, है ना, ये एंट्री बुक की क्या, दैट इज कॉल्ड रिकग्निशन. So when it comes to the recognition, then we have to see which costs can be recognized, and then we'll talk about the measurement. Measurement technically is how much monetary value to be assigned. And what is the basis for that? हम जानते हैं historical cost and all these. So one of the basis which is commonly accepted is the cost basis, and secondly is the revaluation. बताएंगे आपको कुछ break के बाद revaluation क्या है and what are the options here. एंड आई एम गोइंग टू आल्सो शेयर समथिंग, बहुत रोचक बात बताऊंगा जो आपको कंपेल करेंगे कि जी हाँ, सर ने कहा था हमें स्टैंडर्ड्स पढ़ना है एंड फ्रेमवर्क पढ़ना है, तो अब हमें प्रतीत हो गया है, अब हमें यकीन हो गया कि वाईएमडी राकेश रोशन साहब जो कह रहे, तो हम भी सर स्टैंडर्ड पढ़ेंगे. बहुत ही एक्साइटिंग चीज बताने वाला हूं सर आपको, मगर बने रहिए, स्टे ट्यून. आफ्टर सम स्लाइड आई वांट टू शेयर विथ यू. ऑलराइट, व्हेन इट कम्स टू द एलिमेंट्स ऑफ कॉस्ट, the first portion which you can see to your left is the purchase price, import duty. That's very common. It was there earlier also, is there even today also. Now let's talk about the non-refundable taxes. Yaqeen kijiye, for example, just for an example, the GST is deductible to the tune of 40%, to the tune of 60%. Example ke vaste, it may be 100% deductible. So then in that case, if deductible portion or the adjustable portion is 60%, that means 40% is to be treated as a part of your cost. Now, one more thing, sir. Ind AS ऑब्लिक IFRS में फेयर वैल्यू का जिक्र हर नक्शे कदम पे होता है, हर नुक्कड़ पे होता है. Okay, and that fair value is nothing but the time value, and it talks about substance over frame. जैसे हमारे डॉक्टर संजीव सिंघल साहब ने कहा, पीतम जी, ये डॉक्टर सिर्फ संजीव सिंघल नहीं, डॉक्टर संजीव सिंघल है, तो नेक्स्ट टाइम प्लीज मेक श्योर दैट यू कॉल हिम एज डॉक्टर संजीव सिंघल.
Yes, sir. My mistake, sir.
Then it's okay. I'm just because उनको एक गरिमा है, उनका हमको एक रिस्पेक्ट देनी है. So I think काफी उचित रहेगा अगर आप डॉक्टर शब्द का इस्तेमाल करें. Alright, sir. तो ये अल्फाज जरूरी है. दूसरी बात कि when it talks about the purchase price, there is something called time value of money. Time value of money बहुत ही important है सर. तो if for example for the normal credit term, if for the normal credit term you're supposed to pay say 1 lakh rupees to buy an equipment, but for an extended credit term, if you're paying 1,25,000, स्टैंडर्ड कहते हैं कि माय डियर फ्रेंड सब्सटेंस ओवर फॉर्म के तहत 25,000 रुपया जो आपने ज्यादा दिए, वो असल में वाकई में प्रोडक्ट के लिए नहीं है, बल्कि जो समय मांगा, जो समय की अवधि आपने मांगी, उसके लिए है. And the time value of money, my all dear friend, we know is nothing but the interest. So that interest may not be capitalized in the cost of the property plant equipment, because provided it is ready for use. And naturally, if you go by the Ind AS 23, which deals with the borrowing cost, वो कहते हैं कि Ind AS the entity has to borrow the funds. Let's not go into the nitty-gritty of whether should capitalize or no. वो काम करेगा Ind AS 23. मगर यहाँ इतना जरूरी है कि ये आपको दो विभाजन करना है. You to divide 1,25,000 into 25,000 rupees as the interest, and the balance is the and to be capitalized. Now directly attributable cost, जो cost directly product बनाने में है. So when it comes to the intangible assets, I say construction, acquisition or production. Either you're constructing a building yourself, or you are producing machine yourself, or maybe you are acquiring. So I call it CAP, C-A-P, construction, acquisition and production, or production. So you see employee cost. अब यहाँ पे मैंने लिखा है which, प्रश्नार्थ है, उसके पीछे कुछ है. But let's first go for the other items. Cost of site preparation, initial delay, installation, cost of testing, and यहाँ पे भी मैंने स्टार मार्क किया है, उसके पीछे कुछ राज है. Professional fees like architectural fees, technical personnel fees, these are all capitalized. Borrowing cost, if it is covered under Ind AS 23, Ind AS 23 केवल एक ही बात करते हैं कि entity has to borrow the funds, incur the borrowing cost, and started some activities related to the production or acquisition or the construction of the qualifying asset. The word is qualifying asset. Qualifying asset की समय मर्यादा निश्चित नहीं की गई, but it says that normally it takes more than about 12 months time, a year's time is known as a qualifying asset. दोस्तों हो सके तो दूसरे भी स्टैंडर्ड्स के बारे में कुछ ना कुछ तो कहते रहूंगा आपको. अब मेरे 2 पॉइंट्स से एम्प्लॉय कॉस्ट which if the employee's services are being used for the construction, acquisition or production of an item, then they are to be capitalized. But if the employee cost is incurred on training the employee as to how to operate an equipment, how to run an equipment, then these costs are not capitalized. I know you want me to tell, sir, kindly repeat this. Yes, I am repeating for you. आपके बिन बोले शब्दों की आवाज तो मैं सुन जाता हूं, क्योंकि 1020वां लेक्चर है तो आपकी नसीबी मैं ठीक तरह से जानता हूं दोस्तों. Employees cost which is incurred on training employee for operating, for running, for operating or running an equipment is not to be capitalized. And India is sending, or the companies, Boeing and Indigo and all these companies are sending their personnels to US or maybe to France and for training as to how to fly the aircraft. Now that is nothing but the operation of the air, how to run, how to operate the equipment or the aircraft. So the cost incurred on employees for operating, oblique running an aircraft or running an equipment is not to be capitalized. दोस्तों दूसरा मेरा है cost of testing. Now cost of testing में the all this cost जो आपके सामने स्क्रीन पे देख रहे हैं सर, this cost are to be capitalized only up to certain stage. कौन सा stage है? That is the stage up to which that is nothing but for an entity to get ready for use, and not put to use. To determine whether the entity, whether the equipment on a set is ready to use or not, it has to be tested. So this is known as a test run. So whatever cost you incur during the test run is to be capitalized, and whatever you realize during this test run is to be reduced from the cost to be capitalized. During the test run, for example, you have produced certain items and you have done a soft launch and you are getting some money out of it. So this money, whichever you received, is to be deducted from the cost of an equipment. अब समस्या ये है सर, जो आर्टिफिशियल डायमंड्स है सर, उसमें बहुत बड़ी समस्या आती है. In case of artificial diamonds, the cost of the raw material which is being used to produce an article to diamond is negligible, is nothing. But the produce which has been generated, which has been produced by the machine, that is selling sometime in such a high volume that in some cases the it may be more than the cost of an equipment, which is really posing a big problem. Sir, अब आय से भी इस बात का विषय विचार करें, and there's an exposure drop. What should be the treatment of the revenue generated during the test? A, should it be reduced from the cost of an equipment? B, should it be shown as a revenue, as a separate line item, as an income? इस पे विचार विमर्श हो रहा है, exposure draft जारी है, and it's been expected that the decision may be taken in couple of months. अब तीसरी जो बात है यहाँ पे, the initial estimate of the cost of dismantling and removing an item and the restoring the site on which it is being located. Friends, there are certain industries wherein एक आप पे दायित्व दिया गया है. There's an onus, there's an obligation cast on the industry, on the entrepreneur, that please, when you shut down your business, the commission is to start. Commission का meaning होता है start, and stop means to close is decommissioning. So when you decommission your business, when you stop your business, when you stop your industry, or when you stop using that particular equipment, that particular site, you have to restore this site. आपने जो भी कुछ damages किए हैं, environmental damages or whatever may be, you are supposed to restore that thing. So in US GAAP, it is known as the asset restoration cost, ARC. In case of Ind AS, it is known as the decommissioning cost, the cost which is incurred to stop the business. So the friends, आप बोलेंगे सर ये तो आप 25 साल पुराने की बात कर रहे हैं, 30 साल की बात कर रहे हैं, तो why am I concerned with that today? But a standard setter say, no, my dear friend, since you have to incur this cost, regardless of the fact that you are incurring now or maybe in future, you have to at minimum provide for this. तो चलिए रुक करते हैं, एक छोटा सा एग्जाम्पल है, मैंने कहा कि एक क्यों ना एक एग्जाम्पल किया जाए जिसके जरिए जिसके तहत आप ये सीख जाए, क्योंकि ये नई चीज है सर. This is the new thing. Installation cost and everything is a common thing which was there earlier. So now I'll एक एग्जाम्पल के जरिए मैं दिखाता हूँ आपको कैसे इसका measurement किया जाता है. So the machine installation is 2014. The useful life of an equipment is 25 years, and after maybe 25 years, you have to spend about 1 crore rupees to restore the site as a decommissioning cost. ये दायित्व आप पे है. It's not optional. It is mandatory. And now, what do you to do? Your WACC, weighted average cost of capital, is 10%. So by 10%, you use the factor and calculate the present value of 1 crore which you need to spend after 25 years. 25 साल के बाद जो खर्च करने वाले उसे आज की तारीख में उसके प्रेजेंट वैल्यू लीजिए. एंड जी हाँ दोस्तों, वो वैल्यू है 9,22,960. If I use the unwinding of discount, what I have done to arrive from 1 crore to 9,22,000, I have divided, kind of a divided. But when I were to go back to 25 years from hence, I need to multiply. It is known technically as the unwinding of discount. This is known as the unwinding of discount. Okay friends, now बताता हूँ आपको. This is the first entry you pass. दोस्तों एक बात बताऊँ, मैं एक चीज का बहुत मुझसे लगाव है, एंड वो है जर्नल एंट्रीज. सर अकाउंटिंग में अगर आपको सीखना है तो बुनियादी चीज पे उसके ढांचे में जाइए. गो टू द रूडिमेंट्रीज ऑफ अकाउंटिंग स्टैंडर्ड्स एंड दैट्स द जर्नल एंट्री. मिश्रा जी कुछ कहना चाहते हैं कि जैसे ऐसे ही आपने दर्शन दे दिए?
नहीं सर, हम तो बस ऐसे हमने सोचा थोड़ा टाइम पे आपका दर्शन करते रहे.
मुझे बहुत अच्छा लगा. नहीं तो सर मुझे लगता है कि मैं एक फैकल्टी नहीं मगर बतौर न्यूज रीडर के तरह देख रहा हूँ, उसकी भांति को लेक्चर दे रहा हूँ, ऐसा लग रहा है. जब हमारे सामने जैसे हसमुख और हमारे प्यारे चेहरे दिखते हैं तो कुछ मजा आती है, जान में जान आ जाती है. नहीं तो लगता है कि ये मैं केवल न्यूज रीडर हूँ और ये शुष्क स्क्रीन के सामने बोल रहा हूँ, बट आप जीवंत चेहरे आते हैं तो जान में जान आ जाए.
हम लोग तो डिस्टर्ब ना करने के लिए अपने आप को थोड़ा आप कर लेते हैं क्या?
ना सर, मैं तो कहता हूँ कभी कभी आते रहिए, दर्शन देते रहिए, अच्छा लगता है सर. दिल खुश हो जाता है. चलिए सर, सो मेरी एक वीकनेस है, वो है जर्नल एंट्रीज. बिना जर्नल एंट्री मैं कोई भी अकाउंटिंग कॉन्सेप्ट आत्मसात नहीं कर पाता सर. यस, आई कैन नॉट डाइजेस्ट, आई कैन नॉट अंडरस्टैंड द बेसिक्स ऑफ अकाउंटिंग टिल आई पास अ जीबी. सो दिस इज द फर्स्ट जीबी. डेबिट, property plant equipment, one component, decommissioning cost, and credit provision for decommissioning costs. At the end of year one, sir, when I do this unwinding of discount, so this 922,960 will be multiplied by 0.10, which is the weighted average cost of capital WACC. And so my entry would be interest cost oblique finance cost account debit to provision for decommissioning. So होले समय के अनुसार जैसे जैसे समय बीतता जाएगा, and when you're reaching 25 years, this 9,22,000 will become 1 crore rupees. एक और बात बता दूं सर, ये जो इंटरेस्ट कॉस्ट है, this is not to be capitalized. जी हाँ, स्टैंडर्ड में अपेंडिक्स ए ऑफ Ind AS 1A में Ind AS 16 में जिक्र किया गया है. they mentioned very specifically, very clearly that this interest is not to be capitalized, rather never capitalized. समय नहीं है, नहीं तो बताऊंगा उसका रीजन, उसकी वजह, बट फिलहाल इतना जरूरी है कि this interest cost is not to be capitalized. And I would just want to, मिश्रा जी अगर इजाजत हो तो मेरे एक फ्रेंड है मिस्टर विशाल, and he is from some place of Rajasthan, and जैसे आप जो वो जो है IBC प्रोफेशनल, तो ही इज माय गुरु एज फार एज IBC प्रोफेशनल इज कंसर्न. तो बाद में विशाल कभी भी आप आना चाहते हैं स्क्रीन पे तो प्लीज आप आइएगा. नाउ दिस कॉस्ट, द फॉलोइंग कॉस्ट आर नेवर कैपिटलाइज्ड. You are launching a product, advertisement, You are opening a new facility, you are making a big advertisement in the newspaper, हम ये factory यहाँ लगा रहे हैं. Samsung की world's biggest factory is in India. I don't know whether Gurgaon or Noida, but so these are not to be capitalized because they are not contributing an iota. They are not contributing anything in terms of production of this equipment or construction, acquisition, or the production, admin, and or other general. At the same time, abnormal costs are also never capitalized. जब हम बात करेंगे bearer plants की measurement कैसे ली जाती है? Measurement means assigning the monetary value to that. That's technically known as the measurement. तो measurement के इसमें abnormal cost is to be deducted. So since I'm from the Balsar, Gujarat, we are mango lovers and we have the mango achars and all this. So we, as far as 2 or 3 companies are concerned, they are running the juice factory, canning factories, and it is one of the very renowned international factory. So when they have done the adopted Ind AS, they had applied this standard agriculture, and at that point of time, when I asked them, because I'm a interested, काफी रुचि है accounting standard में, तो I contacted the management. He said, how do you account for all this? So he said the very first crop of the mango, which normally is there maybe after 6 years or 7 years, till such time, whatever cost we incurred on nurturing, on the manures and fertilizers, watering, etc., everything is capitalized. So they are treating as if it is a self-constructed asset, and in that case, abnormal costs are never capitalized. So ये था सर, sorry, कंप्यूटर जी, आपको मुझे साथ देना है. ऑलराइट सर, जब बात करते हैं मेजरमेंट एंड मेजरमेंट की बात करते हैं, तो इनिशियल होता है मेजरमेंट. 2 टाइप्स ऑफ, वन इज अ इनिशियल मेजरमेंट, सेकंड इज अ सब्सिक्वेंट मेजरमेंट. At the same time, one is the initial recognition, second is the subsequent recognition. तो यहाँ पे बात है initial cost, initial recognition, and initial measurement. So we know that all cost to acquire, to construct or produce and contract an asset is the initial cost. जो शुरू में आप खर्च करते हैं, इसी initial cost करते हैं. And second cost are that of the cost of the major inspection, overhauling is also capitalized. जी हाँ, ये ध्यान रहे सर कि Ind AS एक नया कॉन्सेप्ट लाया है अकाउंटिंग स्टैंडर्ड्स के माध्यम से, जो हमारे कंपनीज एक्ट 2013 में आया है इन टर्म्स ऑफ डिवीजन शेड्यूल 2 टू द कंपनीज एक्ट, डेप्रिसिएशन, component accounting, accounting of the depreciation, which are major parts, material parts, and which are separable, and still the mother plants is functioning. So this is a major cost of major inspection is one of the component. जी हाँ, is one of the component. Even if it is not been, let me pull this word, even if it has not been explicitly mentioned or bifurcated, we have to still account for it. And let me see, just allow me a minute, I will find this example here. सर, मैं जानता हूँ कि समय कम है, but इतना जरूर मानता हूँ कि जो भी सिखाऊंगा परफेक्ट सिखाएंगे, जो भी सिखाएंगे परफेक्ट सिखाएंगे सर. एंड मैं मानता हूं कि हमारा ज्ञानचंद जी मेरे इस विचारधारा से सहमत होंगे.
मैं 200% सहमत हूं सर. और मेरा अनुरोध है सर कि अगर सर आज नहीं हो पाता है तो हम आधे घंटे समय आपका दोबारा फिर ले लेंगे
सर. अवश्य.
चलिए, थैंक यू सर.
अवश्य सर. इतना तो अपने आप को मैं कृतज्ञ समझूंगा कि आप मुझे इतने एंड ये मेरा दायित्व रहेगा कि जो भी काम आज ने मुझे दिया है वो पूरा करके जाऊंगा, और मैं कहूंगा जो वादा किया वो निभाना पड़ेगा, है ना सर? तो आपको जो वादा किया है मुझे जरूर निभाना है, आज नहीं तो कल. चलिए सर, ये इंस्पेक्शन की बात करते हैं. तो इंस्पेक्शन ऐसा है कुछ, फॉर एग्जांपल कि मैंने एक इक्विपमेंट लिया, तो द मदर प्लांट इज कॉस्टिंग मी अबाउट 10 लाख रुपीज, एंड उसकी समय मर्यादा है यूजफुल लाइफ अबाउट 40 years. बट this plant has to be ओवरऑल इंस्पेक्टेड, ओवरहोलिंग करना पड़ता है. एयरक्राफ्ट की भाषा में बात करूं, क्योंकि काफी एयरलाइन का काम मैं कर चुका हूं, एयरक्राफ्ट की भाषा में बात करूं तो इट्स नोन एज AOG, एरोप्लेन ऑन ग्राउंड. तो आफ्टर certain stage, certain criteria, whether it is the flying earth, whether it is flying hours or takeoff or landing, depending on various criteria. Whichever hit the first criteria, you have to keep the aircraft on ground for at least 2 to 3 months. 2 to 3 months में क्या करेंगे सर? पूरे जो उसकी पुर्जाएं हैं, all the spare parts, they are being checked thoroughly, and then only the aircraft get the flight worthiness certificate. Flight worthiness certificate अगर नहीं मिलता है तो आप cannot fly the aircraft unless you pay huge penalty. कोई नहीं करेगा, अलाउ ही नहीं सर आपको. सो दिस इज मैंडेटरी. अब देखिए कि एक इक्विपमेंट है जिसमें हर 5 साल के बाद आपको ओवरहोलिंग करना है. अगर नहीं करेंगे तो ये आप चला नहीं पाएंगे. So the economic benefits will not accrue to the company, will not flow to the entity. अब देखिए, this is, I'm just going back to the slide. Cost of major inspection overhauling is also capitalized. So when I buy this equipment, what I will do, एक ही अमाउंट दिया है मैंने 10 लाख का, एक ही इनवॉइस से, जीएसटी भी 18% 10 लाख पे ही लगा है, बट मैं उसे विभाजित करूंगा 2 भाग. I will divide into 2 parts. One is 8 lakhs. One is 8 lakhs. One is 8 lakhs, which is here, which is being depreciated over a period of 40 years. And second is mandatory overhead, which is the again this. I want to give the example afresh. So 2 lakhs rupees. Now this will be depreciated over a period of 5 years at 20%. This will be okay. Computer जी आप तो कमाल कर दिया. कंप्यूटर जी ने हमारा लिखा है कि 8 lakhs rupees 40 years 20,000 is annual depreciation, whereas 2 lakhs, which is the major overhauling, which is the useful life of keval 5 years, every year it is depreciated at 40,000 rupees. Fine. So at the end of 3 years, the carrying value of the mother plant, which is 8 lakhs, will be 7 lakhs 40,000 rupees. जबकि mandatory overhaul जो है, this will be 1 lakh 20. Okay, so this was the figure. So the carrying value will be 80,000 rupees. So then at the end of 3 years, presume at the end of 3 years, this urja, this part, let me give one more example, sir. So let's first take that 5 years. After 5 years, this mandatory overhaul will become 0. Kyunki that is a separate component, it is a material and it is mandatory. So hypothetically, I divide this equipment into 2 parts. अब आप बोलेंगे उनका presentation कैसे करेंगे sir? So I will present like this. Say plant A, the main plant, and the overhaul, right? So this overhauling is again divided into 2. This is 8 lakhs. So this will be the presentation of this equipment on the not presentation, but this will be disclosure. So this is how I'm going to disclose. At the end of 5 years, जनाब ये बन जाएगा हमारे पुर्जा 0, because at the end of 5 years you have to do the fresh overhauling, a fresh inspection. तो पूरी it is done totally de novo. So at the end of 5 years, your entry will be debit property plant equipment and credit cash bank etc. जी हाँ दोस्तों, ये कहने का आशय ये था about the subsequent recognition and the measurement of the cost. Okay, so that's what I say, to add or replace the part of servicing. And this concept is purely because of the concept of accounting of depreciation by parts. Depreciation by parts is known as the component accounting under the US GAAP. अब प्रश्न होता है कि when it comes to the spare parts, should all they be capitalized or not? Normally आमतौर पे जो छोटे मोटे पुर्जाएं जो होती है, tools वगैरह रहते हैं, these are to be expensed out, and same is true even for the Ind AS 16. But there are certain parts which are to be capitalized, which in other words they will not be expensed out, but that will add to the cost of property plant equipment. पहला है major space and standby equipment. Major space and standby equipment which are expected to be used in more than one period, means more than 1 year. यहाँ पे sir they talk about the materiality, and that's why they say major parts. Second is the standby equipment. Standby equipment may not be measured, but normally it is critical. Standby equipment normally people have because the lead time is more, maybe 6 months, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, and you cannot afford to keep your plant idle. You cannot afford to keep your plant idle, and that's why you have to make sure that this part is replaced immediately. अब प्रश्न ये है, you are going to capitalize this. What do you mean by this? Major parts and standby equipment. Should you depreciate this or no? Should you depreciate this or no? अगर मेरे फिजिकल क्लास होते तो सर इसमें बहुत आप रौनक और चमक ला देता, बट क्योंकि ये मर्यादा है वेबिनार की तो मैं कुछ बोल नहीं सकता, एंड मैं सीमित हूँ मेरी मर्यादा, तो क्षमा कीजिएगा, क्योंकि वो जो चार्म लाने वाला था ये क्वेश्चन में नहीं आ रहा है, एंड सॉरी अबाउट दैट सर. सो द क्वेश्चन अराइजेस, शुड यू depreciate this spare major space and standby equipment? Answer is yes. बावजूद से, notwithstanding the fact that these are not, you're not using this standby equipment. The reason, the logic behind this is they are ready to use and not put to use. Standard कहते हैं कि you know if the an item is ready to use, you should depreciate बावजूद उससे कि they are not actually used. अब बात रुक करते हैं दूसरे बात की, spare parts which can exclusively be used in connection with the particular equipment. यहाँ पे measure और materiality की बात नहीं कही. Drucker had 3 types of aircraft. One is a Boeing, second is the Airbus, and third is a Douglas DC. बहुत पुराने थे, पंखे वाले थे. तो Douglas DC का पार्ट्स ऐसे थे कि वो एयरबस के पार्ट्स नहीं यूज कर सकते, बोइंग के पार्ट्स नहीं यूज करते, उनके लिए केवल अब उनके लिए जो सीमित है वही पार्ट्स देने पड़ते थे. कहने का मतलब कि स्पेयर पार्ट्स which can exclusively be used with a particular equipment are to be capitalized and not to be expensed out. अब कॉस्ट ऑफ सेल्फ कंस्ट्रक्टेड असेट्स, यहाँ पे जो मैंने कहा कि एबनॉर्मल कॉस्ट नहीं गिनी जाती, एंड वी ऑल नो द कार्डिनल प्रिंसिपल ऑफ द सेल्फ कंस्ट्रक्टेड इंटरनली कंस्ट्रक्टेड प्रॉपर्टी प्लांट इक्विपमेंट आर द, जहां पे इंटरनल प्रॉफिट्स नहीं गिना जाता. सपोज डिपार्टमेंट ए हैज कंस्ट्रक्टेड फॉर डिपार्टमेंट बी, एक ही कंपनी के दो हाथ है, दाएं हाथ ने बाएं हाथ के लिए काम किया, तो कहते हैं कि भाई जो आपने जो प्रॉफिट किया है इसे प्लीज कैपिटलाइज मत कीजिए, बिकॉज ये तो डुप्लीकेशन हो जाएगा. अब जहां तक बैरर प्लांट की बात है, दे आर ट्रीटेड एज अ सेल्फ कंस्ट्रक्टेड असेट्स. बैरर प्लांट्स मींस मैंगो ट्रीज, टी बुशेस. कैलकाटा, असम, नॉर्थ ईस्ट इंडिया में इसका भरपूर होता है. अकाउंटिंग स्टैंडर्ड इन दिस 41 का इस्तेमाल. सेम इज द केस विद केरला एंड ऑल दिस. सो reference to construction should be read as converting activities, covering activities that are necessary to cultivate the barrel plants. So आप कंस्ट्रक्शन वो ईंट या सीमेंट लेके बैरल प्लांट नहीं बनाएंगे, बट उसकी जो मावजत करते हैं उनके लिए जो खर्च करते हैं, these are to be capitalized. So this is what they say by the barrel plants. All right, now treatment of incidental operations, ये संक्षिप्त में बताऊंगा. If certain operations, certain activities are required to construct the asset, okay. काढ़ा पीने की आदत हो गई है, वो पीना पड़ता है सर. कावा है काढ़ा, क्षमा कीजिएगा. So if certain activities are required and necessary to construct or build a building or a plant or equipment, that are to be capitalized. If they are not mandatory, उनके बिना काम चल सकता है तो चलाइए, so those costs are not to be capitalized. मिसाल के तौर पे ये एग्जाम्पल स्टैंडर्ड ने ही दिया है, एंड दैट्स व्हाई आई वुड से कि प्लीज डू रीड द स्टैंडर्ड्स, डू रीड द स्टैंडर्ड्स. ओके, स्टैंडर्ड्स तो एक मर्तबा कम से कम पढ़ना चाहिए आपको. सर मिश्रा जी, yesterday I had to dwell on this standard on the certification course conducted by ICAI. तो वहाँ पे भी मैंने ये कहा था, आप भी दोहराता हूँ कि I do read standards before I go to the lecture. I make sure.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
तो always पढ़ना चाहिए. लता मंगेशकर जी भी at the age of 60 when used to go for the international संगीत के शो में वो रियाज करते थे.
बिल्कुल सर, बिल्कुल करना पड़ता है
तो
सर.
जब लता जी को मिस्टर हरीश भिमानी साहब ने पूछा कि लता जी आप क्यों रियाज करते हैं, दीदी आपको तो जरूर नहीं, हरीश जी एक आराधना होती है ऐसी बात है. तो इन डेज मेरे लिए आराधना है सर, तो मैं भी चाहता हूँ कि वो आपकी भी आराधना हो जाए. ठीक है सर। ऑलराइट, ओके। एक एग्जांपल है कि एक कंपनी इज कंस्ट्रक्टिंग अ मॉल एंड मॉल में सर पार्किंग स्पेस जरूरी है। तो एक कंपनी ने कहा कि चलिए लेट अस ये 3-4 साल की अवधि में जब मॉल पूरा हो जाएगा काम, तब तक हम ये पार्किंग लॉट है उससे हम भाड़े पे दे देंगे, रेंटल्स पे दे देंगे एंड विल स्टार्ट अर्निंग सम मनी आउट ऑफ इट। नाउ द क्वेश्चन अराइजेस, जो रेंटल इनकम जो मिल रही है by giving this open plot on the rentals, क्या उससे कंस्ट्रक्शन कॉस्ट कम की जाए या उससे अदर इनकम में गिना जाए? The question which arises, whatever rental income you earn, should this reduce the cost of construction of the particular equipment, or it should not reduce the cost of construction on the one hand, and on the other hand it should be recognized as a other income? Now answer is no, because letting out of this space for construction of mall is not required. आपको लगता है ये जरूरी है? आंसर इज नहीं। अब दूसरे एग्जांपल देते हैं, स्क्रैप। स्क्रैप received on sale, the money received on sale of scrap is very much incidental to the construction activity, correct? And that's why the amount realized from sale of scrap will reduce the cost of construction or the cost of the building, and it will not be shown as a other income during the construction stage of a building. And now new asset to the parts to be recognized and to be replaced as the old parts are derecognized even if they are not separately recognized earlier. मैंने आपको मिसाल दी, एक एग्जांपल दी सर, वो 10 lakhs का इक्विपमेंट खरीदा, एक ही बिल था, एक ही पेमेंट दिया, एंड इट वाज नॉट बाइफर्केटेड बाय द कंपनी, बट दे हैड टोल्ड अस वन थिंग कि देसाई साहब एक ध्यान रखें, 5 साल के बाद इसकी आपको कम से कम वो तो करानी ही पड़ेगी ओवरऑल, तो मैंने उसको डिवाइड कर दिया, करेक्ट? सो दिस इज व्हाट दे से। एंड सर आई हैड मेंशन कि अगर पेमेंट कुछ नॉर्मल क्रेडिट पीरियड से ज्यादा है तो it is to be treated as an interest, and then depending on the case to case whether to capitalize this interest or not is a different ball game. But अगर नॉमिनल पीरियड में the extent or the normal credit में if I have to pay 1 lakh rupees and if I am paying 25,000 extra because I'm buying a more time, मैं समय की अवधि ज्यादा मांग रहा हूँ, एंड बतौर दिस रीजन आई एम पेइंग 25,000 एक्स्ट्रा, तो दिस 25,000 शुड नॉट बी कैपिटलाइज्ड अनलेस वारंटेड बाय इंड एस 23। अब बात करते हैं सर कि ये तो बात हुई है कंस्ट्रक्शन ऑफ और बाइंग ऑफ एन इक्विपमेंट, बट प्रॉपर्टी कैन बी अक्वायर्ड थ्रू सम अदर मीन्स ऑल्सो। मिसाल के तौर पे गवर्नमेंट ग्रांट. So if the property is acquired by a government grant, then I have two options: either to treat as at a nominal, either to recognize and measure at the nominal value, or maybe the fair value. So this option has been given under the Ind AS 20 government grant. If I exchange, मान लीजिए if I'm buying two things, if I'm selling this equipment and I'm buying this equipment, so I would say that rather than me paying you cash or bank, I'm exchanging these two sets. So this is known as exchange with a non-monetary assets. Exchange with the non-monetary assets. So in that case, whichever cost can be measured, value can be measured reliably, that is to be recognized as the cost. अब बात करते हैं लीज की। इंड एस 116 कहते हैं। ज्ञान जी साहब, ज्ञान मिश्रा जी, अगर आप आएंगे सर, आप पर्दे पे आइए प्लीज। ज्ञान मिश्रा जी, हॉट सीट में आपका स्वागत है। कंप्यूटर जी, ज्ञान मिश्रा जी को 2 मिनट के लिए बुलाइए। अच्छा, ओके मिश्रा जी, सर एक 116 के लिए केवल 5 मिनट लूंगा सर, बट जनता खुश हो जाएंगी।
सर एक चीज मैं बीच में जरा सा 2 सेकंड आपका टाइम लूंगा। पार्टिसिपेंट से मेरा रिक्वेस्ट है कि आप लोग अपने क्वेश्चंस जरूर रेज कर लें Q&A बॉक्स में, क्योंकि हमारा समय जिस तरीके से हम लोग चल रहे हैं तो अच्छा रहेगा कि समय से आपका क्वेश्चंस आ जाएगा तो देसाई सर उसको ले पाएंगे।
बिल्कुल सही बात। एंड आंसर
प्लीज कंटिन्यू सर।
हाँ, ओके। तो मैं मेरे फ्रेंड जो है मिस्टर विशाल शर्मा, उनका जिक्र करा था। ज्ञान जी, आप तो आईबीसी है ना, मैं तो अभी आईबीसी बन रहा हूँ, केवल 1.5 मार्क के लिए डांडी हो गई थी। but I think next time I'll make it up. And Vishal is helping me a lot. Okay, now sir, one sec, I must tell you 116 in as standard है. उन्होंने topsy turvy उसकी लीज की हुलिया बदल दी. जी हाँ. Now from the perspective of the lessee, this standard has been changed a lot. And आपको थोड़ी सी एक मिसाल देता हूँ कि for example, there is a building say which has a useful life of 60 years. And this building, if I had taken under IS 17 on rentals, तो I would have recognized this as an operating lease from the perspective of the lessee. 60 साल की बिल्डिंग की यूजफुल लाइफ है, मैंने केवल 10 साल के लिए भाड़े पे लिया है. एज अ लेसी अंडर IS in this 17, I would have treated this as a operating lease, जिसे कहते हैं भाड़ा खाता. I would have debited this lease rental as an operating lease expenses. But come Ind AS 116, क्या सूरत बदल गई है. For this 10 years, the lessor is not able to substitute the product substantially. During entire 10 years, I being a lessee, either I can use the asset myself or I can give the right to use the asset as per my own sweet wills. So या तो मैं use करूंगा या तो फिर मैं otherwise I'll give the right direction how to use it. In that case, this will not be an operating lease from my perspective, but this will be a kind of a finance lease in my books of account, and I will recognize and measure ROUSA. जी हाँ दोस्तों, केवल 10 साल के लिए मैं ले रहा हूँ बिल्डिंग भाड़े पे, जबकि बिल्डिंग की यूजफुल लाइफ है 10 years, 60 years. मगर फिर भी I will recognize in my books of account ROU building. जी हाँ. हाउ डू आई मेजर? जो 10 साल में मैं भाड़ा दे रहा हूँ, ऑपरेटिंग चार्जेस, sorry, whatever lease rentals I'm paying in next 10 years time, I will reduce it to the present value. This is known as the present value, the minimum lease payment, and I will pass an entry debit ROU asset dash building credit lease obligations. So in that case, the measurement and the recognition criteria will be governed by Ind AS 116. दोस्तों ये जरूरी था यहाँ कहना, जिक्र करना, इसलिए मैंने 5 मिनट के टाइम पे मैं अपने पकड़ी. Now this is one example, sir, which says that what is to be capitalized and what is not to be capitalized. Now very important thing is that the parking charges is not capitalized. At the same time, operating losses are not being capitalized. ये PPT मैं आपके साथ शेयर करूंगा and you will get this PPT and you will get this number. तो मैं यहाँ थोड़ा समय व्यतीत नहीं करूंगा, but I am coming to this. Sir, this is very 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 important. और जो चीजें मैं बताने वाला था, जो मैंने आपको प्रॉमिस किया था, वचन दिया था, उसका जिक्र अभी कहूंगा. बहुत ही रोचक बात है जो आपको कंपेयर. नमस्कार संजीव जी, आइए सर, वेलकम बैक सर. सो आई थिंक संजीव जी, डॉक्टर संजीव सिंघल, मैंने प्रीतम गोयल से कहा कि प्रीतम प्लीज यूज द वर्ड डॉक्टर संजीव सिंघल क्योंकि बहुत जरूरी है. तो वैसे DR मीन्स डेबिट होता है, बट इट इज डॉक्टर संजीव सिंघल एज फार एज वी आर कंसर्न. ओके संजीव जी, एक 10 मिनट ये Ind AS 16 पूरा करके नाउ. So when it comes to the cost of revaluation, this is an option given under IS 16 and Ind AS 16 both. An entity can adopt this, but एक ही केवल चीज ध्यान रखनी है यहाँ पे, when you adopt this model, choose this model, the limitations are that to be applied to the entire class and no cherry pick model is permitted. Second important thing, this all revaluation is to be done on asset by asset basis and not by block by block. Okay, there is no fixed revaluation cycle. ऐसा नहीं कहा, कोई अवधि नहीं, सीमा नहीं तय की कि हर 6 महीने के बाद या हर 3 साल के बाद या हर 4 साल के बाद करेंगे. नहीं, the moment there is a difference, material difference between the fair value and the carrying value of the revalued asset, entity should revalue that. Different model. Now cost is one model, revaluation is another model. Different model can be applied to different classes of assets like land, building, equipment and computers. So for example, you can say for all my lands, pieces of lands, parcels of land, I will use revaluation model. For building, again I'll use revaluation model. for plant and equipment, for other class of assets, I will use the cost model. This is permissible. But ध्यान किस बात का रखना है? Within the class, whatever items are appearing, you should measure all them in the same basis. So all the parcels of land, all the parcels of building should be revalued, should be accounted for using the revaluation model. जी हाँ, एक और भी बात है कि वो सबको एक ही दिन रिवैल्यूएशन करने की जरूरत नहीं, but you can regularly revalue them, but you must revalue them. Then when the revaluation is done, this is very important, and if I'm not mistaken, it is given by paragraph 35B of the Ind AS 16, जिनके तहत कहा है कि when you do a revaluation, you do either of these two things. Either you eliminate the accumulated depreciation by passing this entry, or you restate the assets and the accumulated depreciation both. मैंने उदाहरण के तौर पे 2 स्लाइड बनाए हैं, वो आपको दिखाऊंगा, आप देख लीजिएगा. अब देखिए डिस्कस चेंज फ्रॉम कॉस्ट टू रिवैल्यूएशन. ये मैंने जिक्र किया है, एंड इसके बारे में बहुत रोचक बात बताऊंगा. देयर इज एन एक्सेप्शन इन Ind AS 8. दोस्तों, कॉस्ट मॉडल से रिवैल्यूएशन पे जाती है एंटिटी, और इन अदर वर्ड्स, टिल नाउ यू वर फॉलोइंग द कॉस्ट मॉडल, बट नाउ यू अडॉप्टेड द रिवैल्यूएशन मॉडल. दिस इज चेंज इन एन अकाउंटिंग पॉलिसी, एंड इफ एंटिटी हैज डन दिस वॉलंटरीली एज पर Ind AS 8, otherwise, दोस्तों, I am using the word otherwise. As per Ind AS, normally change in accounting policy is applied retrospectively. Whenever an entity does change in accounting policy voluntarily, it has to apply it retrospectively unless impracticable to do so. But दोस्तों, note down this paragraph number 17 and 18 of Ind AS 8. जी हाँ दोस्तों, मैं नए स्टैंडर्ड का जिक्र कर रहा हूं. पैराग्राफ 17 and 18 of Ind AS 8 says that when an entity changes accounting policy from cost to revaluation, this is a change in this tantamount to change accounting policy, and this has to be dealt with by either Ind AS 16 or Ind AS 38. Ind AS 38 deals with the intangible assets, and so that it has to be treated as a revaluation and to be dealt with by Ind AS 16 and 38. जी हाँ, एंड पैराग्राफ 18 कहते हैं कि पैराग्राफ 19 to 31 ऑफ Ind AS 8 विल नॉट बी एप्लीकेबल. जी हाँ दोस्तों, 19 to 31 में इस एक बात का जिक्र किया गया है, एंड वो बात है कि व्हेन एन एंटिटी चेंजेस इन अकाउंटिंग पॉलिसी वॉलंटरीली, इट हैज टू अप्लाई रेट्रोस्पेक्टिवली. दोस्तों, जैसे हम फेसबुक में टैगिंग करते हैं, बिल्कुल इसी तरह यहाँ पे भी टैगिंग कीजिए एंड ट्राई एंड लर्न द थिंग्स, लर्न द स्टैंडर्ड. सो ये एक एग्जाम्पशन है. सो अब आप मुझे पूछेंगे सब कि अब बताए तो सही Ind AS 16 क्या कहते हैं. Ind AS 16 में पैराग्राफ 40 says that entity done will do the revaluation as at the date of fair value as at the revaluation. In other words, when an entity changes an accounting policy from cost to revaluation, it will not apply retrospectively, but it will apply prospectively. ये कहने का मन था. These are 2 examples, friends, which you can always see, because संजीव जी को देख के अब मेरी मीन्स वो स्पीड मुझे बढ़ानी पड़ेगी, बिकॉज मैं भी उत्सुक हूँ संजीव जी को सुनने के लिए. उम्र में काफी छोटे हैं, बट नॉलेज का भंडार है. ही इज वल्कानो ऑफ नॉलेज. ओके, सो बट स्टिल आई डोंट थिंक आई शुड टेक मोर देन 10 मिनट्स. संजीव जी केवल 10 मिनट दीजिए प्लीज. एंड व्हेन इट कम्स टू द रिवैल्यूएशन को मैं कहूंगा कि अगर पहली बार रिवैल्यूएशन कर रहे हैं आप, सो द एंट्री वुड बी डेबिट्स द asset and credit the revaluation reserve. You have to pass an entry for the deferred tax liability. मगर ये revaluation से पहले you have done the negative or the devaluation, और या तो कम किए थे, revaluation was downward, then you should debit the asset account. तो दोनों में डेबिट करेंगे, बट केवल फर्क पड़ेगा क्रेडिट में. इंस्टेड ऑफ क्रेडिटिंग द रिवैल्यूएशन रिजर्व, यू शुड क्रेडिट द प्रॉफिट एंड लॉस अकाउंट टू द एक्सटेंट ऑफ द अर्लियर डिवैल्यूएशन. एंड बिल्कुल यहाँ पे डिवैल्यूएशन में ऐसा है कि अगर पहली बार डिवैल्यूएशन कीते हैं, डिवैल्यूएशन इज डाउनवर्ड, देन यू डेबिट टू प्रॉफिट एंड लॉस अकाउंट. बट if prior to the devaluation or the reduction in the value, you had done the revaluation earlier in past, so then you will net off the revaluation reserve standing to the credit of that asset. दोस्तों ये शब्द है वो कहते हैं आपको कि revaluation is to be done on asset by asset basis. Standards को interpret करना बहुत चुनौती है. Conditions apply. Easy है. Conditions apply. You should read it very intently. Okay. All right. Then the yearly treatment of revaluation is that either an entity choose to transfer every year from revaluation to the retained earnings, and or maybe when the asset is derecognized. So what do you mean by yearly transfer? Because when you do the revaluation, the additional depreciation is to be done on the revalued amount, and the difference between the depreciation as per the revalued amount A and the depreciation as per the cost may be transferred every year, or maybe at the end of when asset is derecognized. Now, in terms of Ind AS 1, the this is other comprehensive income. This is known as a non-reclassification adjustment. Other comprehensive income दो भाग में विभाजित की जाती है. The item which will be subsequently reclassified to profit and loss account, and second item which will not be reclassified to profit and loss account. So this revaluation of intangible assets and Ind AS 16 falls under the second category, meaning an item which will not subsequently be reclassified to profit and loss account. अगर प्रॉफिट और लॉस अकाउंट में नहीं है तो कहां जाते हैं? दे आर रिक्लासिफाइड टू रिटेन अर्निंग. दोस्तों ये दो एग्जांपल है एक्सप्लेनिंग द कॉन्सेप्ट ऑफ रिवैल्यूएशन, वेदर डिवैल्यूएशन इज डन अर्लियर और नॉट. एंड अब बात करते हैं सर डेप्रिसिएशन. आई विल बी वेरी क्विक. डेप्रिसिएशन इज टू बी चार्ज सिस्टमैटिकली, proportionately. Material parts are being depreciated separately, known as a depreciation of parts or the component accounting. Depreciation begins when the asset is ready to be used, not put to use. It ceases at the earlier of when it is classified under Ind AS 105, non-current asset held for sale, or when the plant, and very important thing, this is mentioned in paragraph 55, a plant or an item is depreciated even if it is idle. Even if it is idle. अगर मशीन नहीं भी यूज होता तब भी इसे डेप्रिशिएट करना पड़ेगा. मगर एक बात है कि यू हैव टू डिस्क्लोज दिस इन द नोट्स टू अकाउंट्स कि दिस पर्टिकुलर प्लांट इज आइडल एंड स्टिल नॉट डेप्रिशिएटेड. ऐसी एक दूसरी भी बात है कि plant may be fully depreciated but still you are using it, so you have to disclose even that item also. Now this is a very simple formula. Cost minus residual value is equal to the depreciable amount. इसे divide करेंगे useful life से and that will give the amount of depreciation. एक बहुत ही important चीज है and this is given in paragraph 51 and 61 of Ind AS 16. वो कहते हैं कि useful life and residual level as per paragraph 51 it has to be reviewed at every balance sheet year end, and any changes therein are considered as a change in an estimate and not and to be accounted for prospectively. बहुत ही बुनियादी बात कही है पैराग्राफ 61 ऑफ इंड एस 16 में. एंड जहां तक AS 10 का ख्याल है बात है, AS उसमें पैराग्राफ 63 क्या कहते हैं सुनिए सर. सर आई एम ऑल्सो कीन टू हियर डॉक्टर संजीव सिंघल, बट ये चीज तो मैं कह के ही छोड़ूंगा. बहुत बुनियादी चीज है, पैराडाइम चेंज. It says that the method of depreciation is to be reviewed by the management at every year end, paragraph 61, and any changes therein are considered as a change in an estimate and not any that will be treated as per Ind AS 8. Ind AS 8 कहते हैं कि changes in an estimate are always provided prospectively and not respectively. Meaning, sir, a method of depreciation is not considered as an accounting policy anymore. It is an estimate. So when you change from SLM to WDV, so then you don't apply retrospectively, but you apply prospectively. बहुत ही बड़ा change है, अच्छा change है. Okay, sir. So I think with this, sir, and when you recognize any property plant equipment, they are to be losses or gain are to be debited to profit and loss account. But एक चीज ध्यान रखें कि any balance, any amount which is standing to the credit of the revaluation reserve of that asset should be transferred to the retained earnings and should not be transferred to the profit and loss account. Mishra ji, so I think with this my व्याख्यान is over about in the 16, and जब हमारे पास, when we have the pleasure and the privilege of hearing the stalwarts like Dr. Sanjeev Singhal, तो मैं खुशी खुशी यहाँ पे I end my session because उनको सुनना एक is a privilege. And you learn a lot. उनके साथ ऐसा कहा जाता है कि 1 hour with him is like 1 month in a college. And we have been very good family friends also. And we had been to Bhutan with Sanjeev ji and even Dr. Amarjit Chopra.
Amarjit Chopra ji.
Amarjit Chopra. We had a wonderful time there. And I miss around July में गए थे सर, बिल्कुल इसी दौरान.
जून में
गए थे, हाँ जून में. Yes. Maybe 2013, right sir?
Yeah, absolutely, Yagnesh bhai.
Yes, yes. तो थैंक यू वेरी मच. जो भी प्रश्न है आप मुझे बताए, बट कंडीशंस अप्लाई. पहले डॉक्टर संजीव जी को सुनिए. मैं आंसर, प्रश्न का आंसर देके ही जाऊंगा. डोंट वरी अबाउट इट, बट लेट अस हियर फ्रॉम हिम बिकॉज उनको पकड़ना बहुत मुश्किल बात है.
थैंक यू सर.
थैंक यू सर. आई एम हियर, आई एम नॉट लिविंग.
Thank you, sir.
Sanjeev sir, over to you, sir.
Yeah, just maybe Yagnesh bhai, you'll have to remove the presentation.
Yeah, I'm just I'll stop sharing, sir. So sir, यहाँ तो
in the top you will have an option.
वो हो गया शायद, हो गया ना?
हाँ, yes sir, it is done.
Yeah. That's been done. मेरे पास ऑप्शन आ रहा था तो I exercise that option.
क्या बात है.
So I was talking about Ind AS. So Ind AS is full of judgments and estimates, and that is why these judgments are disclosed. But at times there is a debate which goes on that whether it is too much of a disclosure overload. It is. There is absolutely no doubt about it. And with each new standard, this disclosure burden is adding up. That at times I really wonder whether our standards were wrong. But there was a need to converge with the global standard. Personally speaking, my heart is still with the accounting standards which we had in India, because of the IFRS are very, very subjective, and in some of the cases, I have found that these are oriented towards showing more profit, and hence, although being a vice chairman, the Accounting Standard Board, and being a member of the NACAS, but still, I will say, and this is what Amarjit Chopra sir also says, that these Ind AS or the IFRS particularly, they do have some shortcomings. Let me talk about some of the judgment areas which we talk in Ind AS. One is a consolidation. In India, under the erstwhile GAAP, we call it, and this GAAP is generally accepted accounting principles. Under the erstwhile GAAP, consolidation is based on the percentage of shareholding or control over the composition of the board of directors. But under the IFRS or the Ind AS, it is the substance over form. So maybe someone who is controlling 15% may also be deemed as having controlling stake, and someone having 85% may also be treated as minority, which at some time people are not able to appreciate. But in principle, I agree with those principles. But the determination of fair value is one area which is full of challenges. And how fair is the fair value is a question which is generally asked, and it is very, very subjective. Estimation of expected credit losses is again one area which leaves a lot to the judgment, and also a classification of joint arrangement to joint operation or joint venture, which changes the accounting as such, which changes the accounting from the equity method of accounting to the proportionate consolidation, also leaves a lot to be desired, because you can actually change the size of the balance sheet and the size of the P&L depending upon how we are classifying a joint arrangement into joint operation or the joint venture. And on the ECL, I have found that in practice, people still make a provision which they want to make a provision, despite the expected credit loss principle being there. So there's a lot of difference between what is stated in the rule book and what is being practiced. The timing of satisfaction of performance obligation under 115 particularly in the real estate, it's a big challenge. For example, the way the real estate agreements are structured in India, these are, the whether the control passes over a period of time or at a point of time. अगर हम एक कोई real estate property खरीदते हैं, do we really have a control कि वो उसमें क्या करेगा? Except हम अपनी tiles बता सकते हैं, अगर with furniture ले रहे हैं तो कौन सा AC लेना है वो बता सकते हैं, उसमें भी बोलेगा कि differential आपको देना है, तो हमारा कोई literally control नहीं होता. तो जब इंडिया 115 पे हमने ट्रांजिट किया इंडिया में, तो ज्यादातर जो रियल एस्टेट डेवलपर कंपनियां हैं, दे शिफ्टेड टू रिकॉग्निशन ऑफ रेवेन्यू एट अ पॉइंट इन टाइम, यानी कि कंप्लीशन पे. सो उसमें इनकम टैक्स और अकाउंटिंग में हमेशा डिबेट रहती है. इनकम टैक्स में अगर आपको 25% आपको कंप्लीट हो गया, देन यू हैव टू रिकॉग्नाइज रेवेन्यू एंड आल्सो पे टैक्स, वेयर एज अंडर द अकाउंटिंग यू विल recognize the revenue at much later point of time. Variable consideration is another area ऑफ जजमेंट. और सर्विस कंसेशन अरेंजमेंट एक ऐसा एरिया है जहां पे अकाउंटिंग और कैश फ्लोज में काफी मिसमैच रहता है. करंट एंड नॉन करंट क्लासिफिकेशन इज स्टिल फाइन. वी ऑल लर्नड इट थ्रू when the revised schedule 6 was there and then it was translated into the schedule 3. But particularly service concession arrangement, if you look at the accounting of any toll road, that actually many times we feel that it defies logic. However, this is what now we've accepted in India, and that's why where we had a very, very strong view, we have made carve-outs, carve-ins, and the curtailment of options. This is the status of carve-outs now. There are 7 carve-outs, 3 relating to transition, 2 relating to India-specific environment, and 2 relating to the conceptual issues, and we have 1 carve-in. Also, now we plan to remove 1 carve-out, which may be on Ind AS 28, the impracticability aspect, where we say that the accounting policies of the associate and the investor may not be aligned. So, but now we may remove that carve-out. We are going to the Ministry of Corporate Affairs because the Ministry of Corporate Affairs has asked for the plan to remove the carve-outs. Probably this is one area where we felt that this may be possible to do so. Now here is a list of the IFRS and Ind AS. I was particularly keen to share the numbering convention which we have followed. The IAS starts with 1, 2, goes up to 41, and IFRS starts with 1, 2, and goes up to 16. So 41 plus 16, actually there should have been 57 standards, but still we say there are 39 standards. What's the reason? The reason is that, for example, after IAS 1 and 2, there is IAS 7, because IAS 3, 4, 5, 6 have been superseded over a period of time. So what we decided at the time of convergence is that we will also skip those numbers. Even for the paragraphs, for example, if you have to delete one paragraph, say after paragraph 66, if we had to delete a paragraph 67, we have not changed that number. We have not made the para 68 number as 67 because we wanted a one-to-one comparison with the IFRS. And similarly, if we were to add a para, for example, after 67, para 67A was to be added, then we have added para 67A rather than changing the whole numbering. For IFRS, we were thinking whether we should start the numbering from 42, but then finally we decided to start the numbering from 101. So IFRS equivalent standards have been numbered from 101. Let me quickly take you through all these equivalent standards. So IFRS 1 equivalent is Ind AS 101. We have made about 3 optional carve-outs in this standard. There is no corresponding standard in India relating to the first time adoption. IFRS 2 equivalent is Ind AS 102. We have not made any carve-out. We have not made any carve-in. And the equivalent Indian GAAP is in guidance note on the ESOP, which has been revised from this year only. IFRS 3 equivalent is Ind AS 103. We have made a 1 carve-out. We have made a 1 carve-in, and its equivalent standard is AS 14. However, AS 14 is a very, very small standard of about 5 pages, and IFRS 3 is 200 pages standard. IFRS 4 equivalent is Ind AS 104 insurance contract. We don't, there is no carve out, there is no carve in, there is no curtailment of option in the standard, and there is no equivalent standard in India with respect to the insurance contracts. IFRS 5 equivalent standard is Ind AS 105, non-current assets held for sale and discontinued operations. Non-current assets held for sale in the Indian GAAP are covered in AS 10, and discontinued operations are covered in AS 24. IFRS 6 equivalent is Ind AS 106, exploration for and evaluation of mineral resources. There is no carve out, there is no carve in, and there is no curtailment of options. And we have a guidance note on oil and gas producing activity under the Indian GAAP. There are five standards on the now there are 4 standards on the financial instruments: IFRS 7, IFRS 9, IAS 32, and IAS 39, and we have Ind AS 107, 109, Ind AS 32, and Ind AS 39. Ind AS 32. In fact, now Ind AS 39 is also superseded by 109, and same is with IAS 39. So we have made one carve out in IAS 32, and that's a mandatory carve out. IFRS 8 equivalent is Ind AS 108, operating segments. There is no carve out, there is no carve in, there is no curtailment of options, but the standard is slightly different from the existing AS 17, because AS 17 talks about business segment and geographic segment, whereas Ind AS 108 talks about the segmentation based on the chief operating decision maker. For consolidation, there are 5 standards: IFRS 10, 11, 12, IAS 28, and IAS 31. And we have converged with all the 5 standards. We have Ind AS 110, 111, 112, 28, and 31. There is one carve out on the impracticability aspect, which we intend to remove, and the equivalent Indian GAAP standards are AS 21, 23, 27, and there are lots of differences in these standards. IFRS 13 is on fair value measurement. Equivalent standard is Ind AS 113. There are no carve-outs, carve-ins, or curtailment of options, and we don't have an equivalent standard in the Indian GAAP. IFRS 14 and Ind AS 114 talks about regulatory deferral accounts. Both are same. We have a guidance note on rate regulated entities. IFRS 15 and Ind AS 115 are on revenue from contracts with the customers, and we have AS 7 and AS 9, but these are way too different. These standards are way too different. IFRS 16 equivalent is in Ind AS 116 on leases. Our Indian GAAP is AS 19, and again there are lots of difference between the 2 standards. However, there is no carve out or carve in or the curtailment of option in this standard. IAS 1 equivalent is Ind AS 1. There is one carve out and lots of curtailment of options in this standard. And we have AS 1, but AS 1 does not talk about presentation of financial statement because that's covered by the Schedule 3. Inventory standards are all same: IAS 2, Ind AS 2, and AS 2. Cash flow is IAS 7, Ind AS 7. We have three curtailment of options in statement of cash flows as compared to IFRS, and the equivalent standard in the Indian GAAP is AS 3, which is more or less on the similar lines. Then we have IAS 8 and Ind AS 8 dealing with accounting policy, changes in accounting estimates and errors, and the equivalent standard is AS 5, and there are again a lot of difference in how the prior period items and the changes in accounting policies are dealt with in the Indian GAAP and in the international standard. IAS 10 and Ind AS 10 are events after the reporting date. We have one carve out on Ind AS 10, which again pertains to the Ind AS 1 of the breach of the covenants. And our equivalent standard is AS 4, which covers contingencies and events occurring after the balance sheet date. IAS 12 and Ind AS 12 deals with income taxes. Our equivalent standard in the Indian GAAP has been AS 22. AS 22 is based on the P&L based approach, whereas the Ind AS 12 is based on a balance sheet approach. IAS 16, Ind AS 16, and AS 10 on property, plant, and equipment are more or less same now. In IAS 19, Ind AS 19, employee benefits, they are similar standards, though instead of the corporate bonds, we talk about the government bonds in Ind AS 19. And our equivalent standard is AS 15, which is more or less same, except the concept of the other comprehensive income is not there in AS 15. IAS 20, Ind AS 20 deals with accounting for government grant and disclosure of government assistance. Primarily, these standards are same, except 2 curtailment of options. And AS 12 is the standard on the existing Indian GAAPs, but that does not cover the government assistance. IAS 21, Ind AS 21 are on the effect of changes in the foreign exchange rates. and the corresponding standard is AS11, but AS11 does not talk about functional currency, whereas Ind AS 21 talks about a functional currency, which is very different. IS 23, Ind AS 23, and AS 16 all deal with borrowing cost, and more or less these standards are similar. IS 24, Ind AS 24 are on related party disclosures, similar, no change in the standard, and the corresponding existing gap is AS 18, which has less disclosure requirements. IS 26 has not been issued in India. This deals with accounting and reporting by the retirement benefit plans, because the retirement benefit plans in India are covered in the form of trust, and whereas the MCA issues the standards only for the corporate entities. That's why the standard has not been covered. We talked about IS 27, 28. Then 29 deals with financial reporting in hyperinflationary economies. There is no equivalent standard in India. EPS is covered by IS 33, Ind AS 33, as well as AS 20. More or less, the standards are similar. Interim financial reporting is covered by IS 34, Ind AS 34, and AS 25. And again, there aren't many differences in these standards. Same is with the impairment of assets, which are covered by IS 36, Ind AS 36, and AS 28. And again, there is no carve out, carve in, or the curtailment of options. IS 37 and Ind AS 37 covers provisions, contingent liabilities, and contingent assets. And again, these two standards are similar, but our AS 29 is different. AS 29, which deals with the provisions, contingent liabilities, and contingent assets, does not talk about discounting of the provisions, and at the same time, it doesn't talk about the constructive obligations. IS 38 and Ind AS 38 deals with intangible assets, and these are quite different from AS 26, because internationally and under Ind AS 38, an intangible asset can also have indefinite useful life and will not require amortization, whereas that's not permitted under AS 26. AS 26 talks about a 10-year useful life, but that's a rebuttable assumption. IS 40 and Ind AS 40 covers investment property. We have made a very significant curtailment of option in the investment property standard. Internationally, fair valuation and cost model both are allowed. In India, we have curtailed the fair value model and only cost model is allowed. We don't have an equivalent standard in India. There's just one paragraph of 3 lines in AS 13, which covers, but however, the essence is same. AS 13 as well as Ind AS 40 says that you use the cost model and then reduce the depreciation on an annual basis or on a quarterly basis as may be appropriate. Agriculture is covered by IAS 41 and Ind AS 41. We don't have an equivalent standard in India for the same. This is although primarily we are an agrarian economy, but we don't have a standard in India. But internationally we have converged with the standards. So this is a brief snapshot of the standards. I have slightly rushed through, keeping in view with the time constraints, because I believe that we have already exceeded time. But my idea was to tell you the naming convention and the philosophy behind the move when we have converged with the Ind AS. And of course, the institute runs batches on Ind AS. If you really want deeper learning, you must go through those batches. It's held in the form of about 21 sessions of 3.5 hours each. And now the fee has also been reduced on a virtual mode to just 7,000 rupees, and you can also use that certification. However, these type of short programs always help you to learn Ind AS quickly, and you must go through initially the overview and the comparison of Ind AS and AS, so that at least if you have a client who has a potential to go in for Ind AS, we sound knowledgeable to that client, and the client should not feel that my advisor or my chartered accountant is not aware about Ind AS. A lot of awareness has been spread through various webinars on Ind AS, but however, still we have a membership of 3 lakhs, so a lot more needs to be done. And in this direction, the effort done by Preetham is really appreciable, and my compliments to him and my dear friend Yagnesh. I'm sure that you would have loved his style of teaching. He has talked very high about me, but let me tell you, no one can match Yagnesh by his style of teaching. He's unique, and he remembers the paragraphs and the sentences by heart. He will quote, just like income tax, he'll quote paras of Ind AS. That's the beauty that Yagnesh Bhai carries. Thanks, Yagnesh Bhai, for coming to the northern region, albeit on a virtual
My
mode.
pleasure, sir. My pleasure. My pleasure.
Thank you so much. Thank you, and over to you, Pitam Bhai, for Yagnesh.
Thank you, sir, for your very kind words. And the main objective of these courses is definitely to make the participants understand the basics or to help them in getting into these Ind AS. The ultimate objective to get better handle on these Ind AS is with regard to the Ind AS classes, Ind AS course, which institutes generally carry out. And in case you are appearing those courses, that will add to your firm credentials also. So for the purpose of giving vote of thanks to Sanjeev Singhal Ji, we would like to invite again Shubham Janji, our executive committee members, to say kind words.
Pitam, questions ले लेते हैं पहले थोड़ा सा.
हाँ, and Pitam, vote of thanks छोड़ो यार, सब दोस्त हैं आपस में. Absolutely no vote of thanks. Let Yagnesh Bhai take up questions. We are already over time. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Shubham, you can just continue with the questions.
So the first question is with respect to whether transformers are PPE or inventory for electricity companies.
Sorry?
So the first query is with respect to whether transformers are PPE or inventory for electricity companies.
Right, sir. This was initially at one point in time was addressed by IFRIC Interpretation 18, which has now been superseded by Ind AS 115. And they say that the transformers or the assets transferred by the customers, the electricity company ke customers hai the users, and this in IFRIC Interpretation 118 was superseded, as I told you, by Ind AS 115, and it says that in that case the entity should recognize the transformer as its own assets, and the at what amount is to be recognized is the fair value of the transformer. So basically the bone of contention is that some people may argue that I think this question was asked even yesterday's seminar also on the thing. What is important is the control. Now my question समय कम है, otherwise I would have been a rhetoric. Rhetoric means प्रश्न का जवाब प्रश्न से. Who controls the asset? The electricity company controls the asset, correct? So asset is a resource controlled by an entity from which future economic benefit will flow to the entity, and the costs can be measured reliably. Now, since the entity has not spent the money, does not necessarily mean that it should not be recognized as an asset, but the entity then recognizes the income and assets both concurrently at the fair value.
So, sir, the next query is with respect to if you can guide on the treatment of COVID rent concessions, and secondly, would it be treated as new asset for the remaining lease term?
COVID rent concession is not covered by Ind AS 16. It is covered by the Ind AS 116, and it will definitely will not give rise to the new asset at all. COVID concession will not give rise to the new assets. It may be whether entity has to account it retrospectively or not. They can exercise the option, but in any case, it is not going to give rise to any asset itself. Dr. Sanjeev Ji, just you are free to interrupt me whenever you find any any additional input or something like that. Dr. Saab, are you there?
I think so, sir. He has left the forum.
He's left the forum?
Yes.
Okay, but nonetheless, the changes in the rent concession, I would say the rental concession in the lease rents under pursuant to 116 does not give rise to the Ind AS 1 to any asset as such. It basically deals with the whether it should be treated as a modification or not, and whether it is to be accounted for retrospective or not. Only on those grounds there is some riayat, some concession, some leeway given to the lessee. But under any circumstances, it will not give rise to any asset as such.
Sir, the next query is with respect to this: should advance be accounted along with the interest income?
Should advance
be accounted along with the interest income?
Hey, this is from whose perspective? The one who is giving or the one who is accepting it?
So this is from both the perspectives, sir.
From what do you mean by both the perspective? Okay, so when I give as advance given, okay, so you meant to say on that, should I treat a imputed interest? Can
So
you
the
ask
question,
the question जो प्रश्न पूछे उनको आप unmute करेंगे please? And can you ask him to surface on the screen?
Yes, sir. 1 second.
Yeah.
We'll just mention that in the chat box in case he is available. Because these queries have been asked
on
around
the
half an
chat
hour
box.
ago.
अगर है तो मैं पूरा पर्सपेक्टिव समझना चाहता हूँ उससे.
Till the time we can take the next question, I guess.
But in the meanwhile, let me explain you that let us first see from the perspective of the one who has given this advance. So if I have given this advance, I am not going to take this money back from him, right? Suppose I have given advance to Pitamji, and Pitamji is my vendor for the equipment. I am not going to get this money back from him. So in the first place, it is not my financial assets. So I need not discount it to the present value and take any imputed interest. बिल्कुल सही. In the same way, the replica of the mirror image will be in the case of Pritam ji, because when Pritam ji gets this advance from me, he is not the onus on him is not to pay cash or any other financial assets of any other entity. Meaning it is not a financial liability. If it is not a financial liability, it will not be measured at amortized cost. If it is not measured at amortized cost, there is no question of any interest per se. So this is my answer to the gentleman who asked this question.
Very nicely explained, sir. The next question directly messaged to me is from Purushottam Boraji. Ind AS define PPE as asset expected to be used for more than one period. However, AS10 defines PPE as assets expected to be used for more than 12 months. Can we interpret use of words period in Ind AS as financial year? If yes, even if assets life is less than 12 months, but falling in two different financial year, can it be capitalized as per Ind AS but not as per AS10?
बिल very बहुत अच्छा प्रश्न है. Very good question. In the first place, I had mentioned it to you during the scene. The one period has been defined and meant as 1 year, and this was exactly, I can tell you the date, on 10th of June 2021, when there was a seminar in Indore conducted by the ICAI branch, Indore branch. At that point of time, our own most learned speaker, Dr. Sanjeev Singhal Ji, has voiced the same concern that it will be treated as a year only and not as a period. Means naturally, year means 12 months period time only. Now your question rises, if the useful life is less than 1 year time, then should it be capitalized or not? So I would say that in that case, if the this is my opinion, I mean I may not be 100% right, but I would say that in that case you should expense it out because it is less than 1 year's time. Or at the most, the second opinion could be the just carry it forward. But I would say if the is less than 1 year's time, you may expense it out.
So there is one more question from Sandeep Kothari. How would the revaluation of land be accounted for?
How the
Revaluation of land would be accounted.
In the first place, revaluation has to be done based on the revaluation report must be sought from the professional valuers, reviews, and all this. Now it's that it's very compulsory for them, and it is accounted for in a very simple manner. So if you want if you want a journal entry, then I can give the journal entry debit land account debit. Say for example you are revaluing by say 10 lakhs rupees. So debit land by 10 lakhs rupees and credit revaluation reserve 10 lakhs. Pass one more entry recognizing the deferred tax liability by debiting revaluation reserve.
Request.
Debit revaluation reserve account. Say the first entry is debit land account by 10 lakhs and credit the revaluation reserve. Second entry is debit revaluation reserve 10 lakhs into the tax rate and credit the deferred tax liability.
Thank you, sir.
Another question is from Jyoti Ji. She want to ask, if I have land and superstructure on on it fully furnished, and my intention is to earn rentals from that property, then it falls under Ind AS 40 or whether under Ind AS 16. How would I recognize?
The wording used by the standard is as under land or building or a part of land and or building. So since you have a structure constructed on the land, I would say this is a composite renting out of land and or building. The word used in the standard is and or building. So this will be construed as an investment property and will be covered by Ind AS 40.
If it was leased out, that property, then the rental income would come under Ind AS 16 or 15. 115.
Okay, now you are giving another echelon to it, another dimension to it. Basically, what you have done is it now, since you are using the word lease out, now from renting you are coming back to lease. Now, is it an operating lease from the perspective of the lessor or a finance lease?
Not clear.
Not a finance lease, right? Not a finance lease. Am I right?
Sir, not clear by the
Not clear. So
participant.
let me give two perspectives. It is an operating lease from the perspective of the lessor. It is an operating lease. It is an operating lease from the perspective of the lessor. So then it will be construed as a lease rent under Ind AS 116. Because 116 has not been changed from the perspective of the lessor, it has been changed only from the perspective of the lessee. So a very simple way to understand Jyotiji is operating lease pertaining to land and or building or a part of land and or building is construed as a operating lease and the income will be recognized under Ind AS 116 as an operating lease. ये हुई बात operating lease की. But if an entity has given this property, now when it comes to land, that means forever. So it is as good as a finance lease. Finance lease, you de-recognize the asset, you de-recognize the underlying asset under the finance lease.
Yes, sir. There is one question from Mithilesh Kumar. He's asking, we are a real estate company and Ind AS is also applicable for us. What will be the treatment of scrap sale of steel and wood?
You are a real estate company, so you will be covered by the Ind AS 115 for the construction contract, right, sir? As far as the revenue recognition is concerned. So in case of revenue recognition is concerned, for a stock in trade, so real estate company can have the buildings or the structure for two purposes. A, for their own use. In that case, it will be a non-current asset. B, for stock in trade, because they want to deal in the items, they want to sell the this is shop or the flats or whatever they are constructing. If it is for the non-current assets, if the real estate development company is building up its own uh, own building for its own use, like headquarters or own office, or maybe some kind of a showcase premises or something like that. So in that case, the treatment of the sale of scrap would be to reduce from the cost of this building. In other words, cost of the non-current assets. Take the second case, the company is constructing houses, flats, shops, etc. for sale. And for that purpose, this will be considered as an inventory, correct? For inventory. So whatever you realize, this scrap will be shown as the other income in the in the profit and loss account.
There is a query which has been texted to me. This goes as so: a vehicle manufacturing company, say Tata, it is using vehicle within their factory. These are unregistered vehicles with RTO. These are not allowed to go out of the factory and use only within the factory for goods movement. These are to be treated as assets or the inventory.
आपने कहा कि फैक्ट्री के बाहर जा नहीं सकते. अगर फैक्ट्री के बाहर जा नहीं सकते तो आप बेच पाएंगे उससे? My question to them is, if the vehicle is not allowed to go out of the compound, are you going to sell it? Answer is no. And my dear friend, don't bring in other acts, and RTO registration इंड एस 16 ने कहीं भी जिक्र नहीं किया कि ये रजिस्ट्रेशन आरटीओ के साथ होना चाहिए या कोई भी दूसरी अथॉरिटीज के साथ होना चाहिए, राइट? सो द पॉइंट इज दिस विल बी कंस्ट्रूड एज अ प्रॉपर्टी प्लान इक्विपमेंट, नॉट इन्वेंट्री। इन्वेंट्री का आशय है उसे बेचने का। क्या आप बेच पाएंगे इसे आरटीओ का लाइसेंस नहीं है तो?
No, it's not realizable. No one will buy it until unless it.
buys. तो क्या करें फिर? नॉन करंट असेट। एग्जाम्पल मारुति की बात कर रहा हूं सर। मारुति कार द शो पीस इज नॉट कंसिडर्ड एज एन इन्वेंट्री, इट इज एन असेट। जो ट्रायल टेस्ट रन पे जाती है ना गाड़ी, ऐसे
Right. Demo car.
Then demo car is been converted from fixed asset to inventory when they want to sell it.
You want to say.
डेमो कार भी बिकी जाती है, काफी कंसेशन में मिलती है सर।
So sir, matlab, this is an additional question to it. Just came into my mind. When that asset is converted from fixed asset to inventory, at what price it will be valued? Cost. Sir, next query is so how future dismantling cost be estimated and the discounting rate will be around, correct?
आपने बहुत ही debatable question पूछा। Dismantle cost can be derived from the professionals. They will tell you that after, I mean, you never know, it is just an estimate, and no one stops you from changing the estimates. And pursuant to Ind AS 8, अगर आपने मान लो 1 करोड़ की लागत estimate की based on the present condition, present technology, and maybe after the couple of years down the line, there's a change in the technology as a result of which the useful life of the property may go up or may come down. There is a change in the discounting rate. There's a change in the amount to be estimated amount to be spent for the decommissioning cost. This always can be addressed and changed prospectively. रही बात डिस्काउंटिंग रेट, मैंने कहा एक शब्द का इस्तेमाल किया था, वेटेज एवरेज कॉस्ट ऑफ कैपिटल, जिसे कहते हैं WACC.
I hope the query is answered. So the next question is by Ketan Desai.
नमस्कार केतन भाई देसाई जी, क्या ना छो तमे? Where are you from? केतन भाई, if you are there, say hello to me. आपकी आवाज सुनने के लिए हम बेताब हैं केतन भाई, अगर हैं तो।
Surat. So Ketan bhai,
अच्छा, very good. Because I am from Vapi and I feel very happy to see some query from Desai. बोलिए देसाई साहब, देसाई साहब बोलो, can you come on the line please? I want to hear your voice.
Yes, sir, he's unmute.
Yeah,
sir.
Basically, the software was earlier in the gap was under intangible, but in the Ind AS, it is considered under PPE.
Who says software is PPE? बिल्कुल गलतफहमी है, बड़ी गलतफहमी जनाब, बहुत बड़ी गलतफहमी है। प्लीज ऐसा मत कीजिए जनाब, आज भी वो डेफिनेशन बरकरार है, इट इज एन एसेट व्हिच डज नॉट हैव अ फिजिकल एग्जिस्टेंस। केतन भाई प्लीज ध्यान रहे कि सॉफ्टवेयर आर स्टिल इंटेंजिबल एसेट्स। केतन भाई समझी गया?
Yes, sir, got it. Because I read somewhere, so that's why I asked this question, that how it is possible that PPE is it covers.
So welcome to Vapi and then Nasik also. Who is inviting to Nasik and Vapi? Nasik. Devendra Devre, हाँ, Nasik and Vapi are very close by, हाँ। बोलिए सर, फाइन। केतन भाई, अपनी देसाई काश का इज्जत का सवाल है, अभी इंटेंजिबल एसेट्स बोलना मत के। Take it in a lighter vein, बाबा, please.
Yeah, it's nice to hear. Thank you.
अगला प्रश्न।
Rakesh Gyan ji want to ask one question. I am just unmuting him.
नमस्कार राकेश जी, हॉट सीट पे आपका स्वागत है, प्लीज।
गुड इवनिंग सर। गुड इवनिंग। हमेशा की तरह आपको सुनकर सर ऐसा लगता है जैसे किसी लेक्चर में नहीं, किसी थिएटर में बैठे हैं और कोई बढ़िया सी मूवी देख रहे हैं।
क्या बात है, आपको लगता है कोई रेडियो जॉकी कर रहा है के जैसा रहता है? जी हाँ बहनों भाइयों, अगली पायदान पे जो मैं गीत लाने वाला हूँ वो बिल्कुल ऐसे अंदाज में लाऊंगा।
सर
हमारे जो वयस्क है चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट मेंबर साहब, वो जान जाएंगे कि किन जनाब की कॉपी मैंने की आवाज की, एंड वो है अमीन सायानी। बोलिए।
my question is, sir, there is a company A,
यस,
जिसका इन्वेस्टमेंट है कंपनी बी में, एंड
एक है,
कंपनी
चलिए, एक होती है कंपनी ए, दूसरी होती है कंपनी बी। चलिए, और
कंपनी ए ने कंपनी बी में 30% होल्ड करके रखा है, एंड कॉमन डायरेक्टर्स भी है, ठीक है, एंड कंपनी बी ने कुछ मार्केट कोटेड इन्वेस्टमेंट भी कर रखी है।
गो हेड। हाँ,
कंपनी बी की बुक वैल्यू, इन्वेस्टमेंट की बुक वैल्यू इज से 10 लाख रुपीज, बट मार्केट वैल्यू उसकी 15 लाख रुपया आ रही है।
जी हाँ
सर, अगर हम जब कंपनी ए की बैलेंस शीट में हम रिपोर्टिंग करेंगे इन्वेस्टमेंट की, तो हमको कंपनी बी की मार्केट वैल्यू लेनी है या सर हमको बुक वैल्यू लेनी है इन्वेस्टमेंट को शो करने के लिए?
आपका प्रश्न बहुत छोटा है मगर उत्तर बहुत बड़ा है। In the first place, company B is considered as an associate.
Yes.
So you have to apply Ind AS 28, apply the equity method of accounting. पहली बात। दूसरी बात, कंपनी बी का जो इन्वेस्टमेंट है, जो ये जो निवेश किया है कंपनी बी ने, करेक्ट सर? Is it in a subsidiary, associates or JVs or other than these three companies?
सर जॉइंट है, अदर देन कंपनी भी है, और एसोसिएट में भी है, और मार्केट कोटेड इन्वेस्टमेंट भी है।
अब मैं कहूंगा कि इंड एस कंपनी बी इन इन्वेस्टमेंट को इंड एस 27 अप्लाई करती है या इंड एस 109?
27 ही अप्लाई कर रही है।
दैट मीन्स एट कॉस्ट।
यस सर।
अगर कॉस्ट पे उन्होंने ऑप्शन अप्लाई किया है, कंपनी बी ने has exercised the option under Ind AS 27 to measure the investment in subsidiary, associate and JVs at cost. Mind you well, एक बात ध्यान रहे कि ये पर्याय जो है केवल सब्सिडरी, एसोसिएट्स और जेवी के लिए है, to measure at the cost. If an investment is in other than subsidiaries, associate and JVs, then company B has to mandatorily apply Ind AS 109 and measure this investment at fair value. So Janab, you in a nutshell, you apply the Ind AS 28, apply the equity method, and accordingly, automatically things will be taken care of.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
All right, sir.
So next question is from Rashiva Kadra. How incremental borrowing rate will be derived in case of debt-free company?
Incremental borrowing rates in a case of a debt-free company. Sir, company may not have the debt as such. That does not mean that the company will get investments without any interest charges. Are you getting my point? आपके पास आज कंपनी ऋण मुक्त है, ऋण नहीं है, डेट्स नहीं है. That does not mean that it does not have the incremental borrowing rates. The question arises when this company wants to borrow, do you think that it will say, oh, I have no borrowing, so I don't want to pay interest? क्या ये उचित रहेगा उनके लिए argument? Will this sustain? No. The point is when this company goes out in the market, what interest it is likely to pay is known as incremental borrowing rate, IBR. अगर सब मैडम या जनाब जो भी है प्रश्न जो जिन्होंने पूछा है, अगर आपकी आर्गुमेंट लूं तो ऑल डेट्स फ्री कंपनी will be able to buy, we should be able to get the borrowings at free of cost. प्रीतम जी,
yes,
हमारे चेयरमैन प्रेसिडेंट साहब मंद हंस रहे हैं, तो आपकी हंसी का कारण क्या है बताइए सर?
Sir, the debt-free company can borrow at 0% cost. So
at 0% cost?
Not possible at all.
Not possible. हाँ.
How is it possible?
देना ही पड़ेगा, नहीं तो सर मैडम हम और आप डेट फ्री बन जाते और मार्केट में जाते हुए थे कि हमें ऋण दीजिए क्योंकि हम डेट फ्री है.
Absolutely. It has to be calculated when we see the valuation rules.
Yes.
Has to be
बहुत
calculated
सी
on the
चीजें
basis
इसमें
of
आती है सर,
credit
बहुत सी
ratings.
चीजें इसमें आती है.
There are credit ratings. There are various parameters attached to it. How to value or how to
So,
calculate the
अगर
interest cost.
संक्षिप्त में बताएं तो अगर डेट फ्री कंपनी, इसका मतलब ये नहीं कि उसको ऋण मुक्त मिलेगा, इंटरेस्ट फ्री तो मिलेगी.
Absolutely.
I hope the query is answered. Next question is from Himanshu. Why bearer plants are not included in Ind AS 41?
सर, ये बहुत अच्छा क्वेश्चन है, एंड फॉर दिस वन हैज टू गो टू द बेसिस फॉर द कंक्लूजन. एंड अगर आप रुचि रखते हैं इसमें, then I think you must read the basis for conclusion for the Ind AS 41, and it says that basically it is better plants are longer lasting. I am talking about the place where I am coming from, Vapi, which is Valsar, and there the mango trees sometimes has a useful life of 20 years, 25 years, 30 years, and 40 years. So basically, better plants, since they have a very long useful life and they have the production, they are kind of a producers, production plant. ये केवल नेचुरल प्लांट भी नहीं है, बल्कि kind of a production plant for an entity, and that's why it is covered in Ind AS 16 and not in Ind AS 41, क्योंकि उसकी तो लाइफ काफी लंबी रहने वाली है ऐसे.
So I think so, sir. You have answered almost all the questions. In case there are any unanswered questions, so Shant, could you just help me out?
Sir, I guess we are done for the time being. There are no more questions.
Yagnesh sir, you have because of the time limitation.
One of the members of
देखिए, एक बात सुनिए कि वाइस चेयरमैन साहब ये मेरे मित्र है, इसलिए मैं उनकी प्रशंसा नहीं कर रहा हूँ, बट ही इज रियली अ लर्नेड पर्सन. एंड सी, मेरा तो लेक्चर कल भी होगा, परसों भी होगा, कभी भी हो सकता है, राइट? वैसे टुमारो एंड डे आफ्टर आई एम हेवीली बुक्ड, बट सब क्या बदलाव कर रहे हैं, मैं अपने आप को नहीं देख पा रहा हूँ, ना तो मैं आप किसी को देख पा रहा हूँ. सर प्लीज चेंज द सेटिंग, बिकॉज जब तक मैं मेरे सामने ये स्टार्स नहीं देख रहा हूँ तो मजा नहीं आ रही सर.
सर आई थिंक सो हु इज आलोक कुमार जी
किसी ने कुछ छेड़छाड़ की जिससे ये बदल गया सब.
हाँ, ठीक हो गया सर.
हमारे स्टार सब देखते नहीं है, और एक तो कन्या भी है, am I right? नमस्कार मोहतरमा जी, आयुषी जी, कैसे हैं? तो अब मैं कहूंगा जी हाँ बहनों भाइयों. सो सर, मैं तो आज भी रहूंगा, कल भी रहूंगा, परसों भी लेक्चर देने के लिए आपके उपलब्ध रहूंगा, मगर वाइस चेयरमैन जी का टाइम मिलना बहुत मुश्किल है, इसलिए मैंने ये त्याग दिया आपके लिए सर.
So, sir, regarding the Ind AS 36 and 38, which we have not covered today, so we will just fix the time with you, and we will have another session with regard to Ind AS 36 as well as 38.
Done.
After this series or on the 7th day, we can organize another day for this
आप मुझे
series.
डेट दीजिएगा, I'll check up my calendar and definitely if I'm free, मैं कभी ना नहीं कहता हूँ सर. I never
our
see
pleasure,
for
sir.
any Ind AS session.
It will be our pleasure, sir. So I think.
Apologies for interrupting in between because I have received another query in my end. So,
जी हाँ, बोलिए जी.
So the query goes like this. The company had revalued the land and building in 2010-11 and transferred the excess to
company had revalued property, plant, equipment in 2010-11, right?
Yes, and transferred the excess to revaluation reserve.
I got the answer. I got a question.
Depreciation towards revaluation is reduced from revaluation reserve. Now the company is planning to sell the assets and accordingly classified as non-current asset in March 2021. Need guidance on revaluation reserve, whether it is transferred to retained earning or in this year when the actual sales happen.
So when the asset is de-recognized technically, any amount standing to the credit of that asset in the revaluation reserve has to be transferred to retained earnings. In terms of Ind AS 1, this is known as a non-reclassification adjustment.
I would request to mute okay, that because there is some noise in between.
Yes.
Are we done, or there are so many questions also?
So, am I audible?
Yes. Yes.
Yes,
So,
you are
first of
audible.
all, it was a very lively forum. I'm very happy to be here. So my question goes like, I just wrote about incremental borrowing rate. So what should be the methodology in that case? Like I can only take the reference rate and some adjustments basis the investment I do have in hand. Would that be right way of calculating my incremental borrowing rate?
मुझे एतराज है एक लफ्ज पे, adjustments in investment. Can you explain me what do you mean by that?
By that I meant, like I have leases, so there would be some lease terms. For an example, I have a lease of 9 years. So would I be needing to make any adjustments with the rates that I do have? Because my rate will
सीधी
then
बात है,
change.
incremental borrowing cost is that when you are taking a property on a lease, you're taking property in lease, and I presume you are the lessee.
Yes.
मान लीजिए ये पर्याय आपने नहीं लिया, आपने लीज नहीं लिया और आपने बैंक से फंड्स बोरो किए,
हाँ जी.
क्या रेट पे आप बोरो करेंगे?
For the credit policy.
Yes, the credit rate. पर सर practical challenge आता है बैंक के साथ, because वो rate मुझे easily मिलते नहीं है.
Who says you don't get the rate, मैडम? मेरे
I
पास, मैं आपको रेट दिला दूंगा.
okay sir.
आइए, हम और आप मिलके जाएंगे बैंक के पास, कहे कि हमें रेट दीजिए.
Actually, so ये challenge face किया था, which is why I was just thinking of the alternate to this.
चलिए, मैं अभी आपको प्रश्न पूछता हूँ. आप है मेरे फैकल्टी और मैं प्रश्न आपको पूछता हूँ, आप क्या करेंगे? चलो.
तो रिस्क फ्री रेट लिया था, प्लस इस पे हमने जो हमारा मार्जिनल रेट होता है वो हमने कंसिडर करके उसको गवर्नमेंट बॉन्ड्स का टर्म लेकर उसके अकॉर्डिंग हमने फिर ये रेट कैलकुलेट किया था.
उसके अकॉर्डिंग ये सब कहानी की थी. आप मुझे वो बनाएंगे क्या, होस्ट बनाएंगे प्लीज?
You want to share your screen?
Yes.
You can share your screen.
I can? Okay.
Yes.
कन्या, ये है मेरे पास, आप जो बोल रहे हैं ना, सब भाषण दे रही ना अभी, ये है रिस्क फ्री रेट ऑफ रिटर्न, जो वेटेड एवरेज कॉस्ट ऑफ कैपिटल, इसमें टर्मिनल ईयर का वो होता है. एंड इफ यू वांट टू गो फॉर द रिस्क फ्री कैपिटल, देन you should do one thing. What I have done in some other cases is like this. Allow me a minute, please. I'll freeze this. Risk-free interest rate based on the government bonds for that tenure. Then you have to add the inflation rate. Then you have to add the industry risk, and then you come to this rate. If you have any question next time, please you can take my number and call me. I will give you some official sites and I will also tell you how to go about it. ये रहे मेरे number and feel free to contact me anytime. And आप भुगतान की चिंता मत कीजिए, it will be on the house help.
Okay sir.
Okay?
Yes sir. Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
I hope the query is answered. Next question I have again received in my chat box. The carried value of the fixed asset has to be reduced. Whether the treatment has to be done as per revaluation or by impairment of the assets.
Sorry. Go ahead. पूछे. If impairment, हाँ.
If the carried value of fixed assets has to be reduced, whether the treatment is to be done as per revaluation or by impairment of the assets.
Okay. Yeah, I was expecting this question, and I have one slide which, allow me a minute, I will come to that slide. एक में ना जना आपको ये दे रहा हूं. I I got this particular slide for that, and this will answer your question.
I guess your screen is not being shared. You have to
मैंने उसको फ्रीज किया है जनाब, मैंने उसको फ्रीज किया है. मैंने उसको फ्रीज किया है. आई एम जस्ट ओपनिंग द, आई विल डिफ्रीज माय थिंग एंड कम बैक टू. Can you see on your screen there is a slide, and this is concerning whether it should be treated as a can you see this in your screen, sir?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Visible.
So it all depends on which model you are adopting. If you're the cost, then the impairment, it is considered as an impairment. But then secondly, if the asset is being carried at the revalued amount, revaluation amount, then deduction, if the asset is being carried at the revalued amount, then the reduction in the value is considered as an impairment. The negative valuation, I would call it, not precisely, but समझाने के लिए अगर 12 लाख से मैं 10 लाख कर रहा हूं, तो it is considered as an impairment from the perspective of Ind AS 36 also. But एक दूसरा प्रश्न है कि I am carrying an asset at the revalued amount. मैं asset को revaluation model पे ले रहा हूं, then should I impair that asset or not? Should I impair that asset or not? Should the impairment test be applied to the asset which has been carried at the revalued amount? उसके लिए उत्तर है आपके समक्ष जो slide है उस पे. Asset, if the revaluation is done based on the fair value, then if the disposable costs are negligible, impairment is not warranted. If the disposable cost is material, then the impairment is must, even if the asset is carried at the fair value and the basis of revaluation is the fair value. If the asset is carried at revalued amount and the basis is not the fair value, asset का revaluation दो तरीके से हो सकता है. एक तो fair value and B the other than fair value, that is the, for example, indexed cost. So I am carrying an asset at the revalued amount, and my basis of revaluation is indexed cost, then impairment test is a must. But technically, reduction in the revaluation is considered as a impairment. Sir, अगर इजाजत है तो can we take off because I have a commitment at 7 o'clock.
Absolutely, sir. I think so. We have answered almost all the queries.
Yeah.
And now I would like to invite CA Vipul Garg ji to give vote of thanks to Yagnesh Desai sir, and as well as for tomorrow's session. Vipul ji, you are on mute.
Good evening, sir.
सेटिंग चेंज कर दी प्रीतम, एक बार सेटिंग दोबारा से वही वाली करो.
Yes.
हाँ, right.
Very good evening, sir.
Good evening जी.
कैसे हैं सर आप?
बस मजे में, आप कैसे हैं?
बढ़िया सर. So first of all, I would like to thank Gyan Mishra sir and Aftp for providing this opportunity to everyone over here. And I would like to sincere thanks to CA Yagnesh Desai ji, today's speaker, who present. Sorry, sir. I would like to thank CA Yagnesh Desai ji for. Sorry, I'm getting a bit nervous, sir.
आप हिंदी में बोलो, मैं तो हिंदी का आप ही हूँ, बोलो. अच्छा लगा नहीं लगा जो भी है, फिक्र मत करो बॉस.
जी सर.
आप नर्वस किस बात के होते मत होइए प्लीज.
देसाई साहब, हमारे यहाँ का बहुत यंग और बहुत इंटेलिजेंट बच्चा है. क्या है कि ये होता है ना कि लोग ज्यादा लोग बीच में,
सर उनको एक हफ्ते के लिए बॉम्बे भेज दो मेरे साथ. सर एक हफ्ते बॉम्बे भेज दो मेरे साथ.
साहब के बाहर बोलो
सर, एक हफ्ते
जिसमें बोलना चाहते.
सर एक हफ्ते बॉम्बे भेज दो उसको, मैं एकदम देखो. बेटे क्या नाम उसका? विपुल.
जी सर।
विपुल गर्ग।
विपुल प्लीज आप घबराइए मत, और मैं आप ही से सुनना चाहूंगा, प्लीज बोलिए, जरा भी मत घबराइए प्लीज, बिल्कुल मत घबराइए।
I, Vipul Garg, on behalf of Gyan ki Baat and in association with AFTP and Webtel and our fellow colleague members, friends and seniors, would like to extend very special thanks to CA Agnes Desai ji for presenting
क्या
his
बात,
knowledge and
क्या बात है।
gracing his presence upon us and sharing his knowledge to us. I would also like to thank Dr. Sanjeev Agrawal, CCM of ICAI, for sharing his knowledge with us.
Dr. Sanjeev Singhal
Ji.
Sorry, sir.
कोई बात नहीं,
Dr. Sanjeev Singhal for sharing his knowledge and his presence with us. And I would also like to thank everyone for patiently listening and
और अब मैं कहता हूँ विपुल, थैंक यू वेरी मच फॉर द वंडरफुल वर्ड ऑफ थैंक्स। ओके,
थैंक यू।
In addition to Vipul ji sir, I would also add that आपको ऐसे सुनते हुए ऐसे लग रहा था कभी-कभी ना बीच में मैं भगवत गीता सुन रहा हूँ, because some words were used like in pure Sanskrit words, so I really liked that. और मेरा मतलब पूरा throughout the session I couldn't blink my eyes, my ears were all on your voice, and it was like I could feel back that I had that glimpse कि मैं अपनी मतलब CA टाइम की classes में बैठा हूँ। I am learning Ind AS पे यार, so it was like
थैंक यू वेरी मच। मैं एक बात बताऊं आपसे, एक बात शेयर करूं कि आई रीड नवभारत टाइम्स बीइंग गुज्जू आल्सो, क्योंकि भाषा पे प्रभुत्व होना चाहिए। एंड मैं चाहता हूं कि बतौर फैकल्टी अगर मुझे हिंदी भाषा नॉर्थ ईस्ट में बात करनी है तो हिंदी भाषा पे प्रभुत्व होना बहुत ही निहायत ही जरूरी है।
So nice of you, sir.
तो बहुत बढ़िया। मैं तो यज्ञेश जी की पूरी स्पीच और ये सब चीजों के बाद 2 लाइनें जरूर बोलूंगा कि कुछ अलग करना हो तो भीड़ से हटकर चलो, कुछ अलग करना हो तो भीड़ से हटकर चलो। भीड़ साहस तो देती है पर पहचान छीन लेती है। सर आपकी जो डेलिब्रेशन की कला है वो बिल्कुल डिफरेंट है। आपका जो पिच था वो एक जैसे कि रेडियो जॉकी अभी मेरे साथ कोई बैठा हुआ था तो वो भी सुन रहा था, एंड ही सेइंग दैट ऐसा लगता था जैसे वो हमारे अजीम जियानी थे, चित्रहार जो प्रेजेंट किया करते थे, उनकी याद आ गई थी।
जी हाँ। तो नहीं, अमीन सैनी मेरे अच्छे मित्र भी है और मुझे उनकी आवाज बहुत पसंद है, उनका तरीका कहना है और जो मधुरता उनकी आवाज में है ना, वो शायद मेरे पास इतनी नहीं है।
नहीं सर, बहुत है, ऐसा मत कहिए, बहुत मधुर है आपकी आवाज। मतलब मेरे पास जो बंदा बैठा हुआ था कह रहा था जो आवाज एक स्पीकर के अंदर होती है, रोश होता है, थोड़ा कई बार एक्साइटमेंट होता है, पर आपकी बहुत सधी हुई और एकदम नॉर्मल आवाज है। एंड रियली अप्रिशिएट दैट कि आपकी इतनी सॉफ्ट आवाज सुन के बड़ा मजा आता है सर।
थैंक यू जी, थैंक यू।
और सब्जेक्ट में भी मजा आने लगता है जब आपकी इस आवाज को सुनते हैं।
थैंक यू जी, बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया। एंड ये मेरा पैशन है बॉस, शौक है मुझे कि नहीं मुझे ज्ञान बांटना है, एंड आई एम कीपिंग इम्प्रूविंग फॉर दैट। एंड एक बार बताऊं, मैंने वॉइस मॉड्यूलेशन की ट्रेनिंग ली थी हरीश भिवानी साहब से।
ओह ग्रेट सर।
कई बार
getting energy from you to learn new things।
नहीं, कभी मैं नाभि से बोलता हूँ,
नाभि से,
हाँ यहाँ से बोलता हूँ। एंड समटाइम्स अगर मुझे इम्प्रेस करना है तो ऐसे लाइक, लेडीज एंड जेंटलमैन, नाउ वी आर गोइंग टू लर्न अबाउट फिक्स्ड एसेट्स, प्रॉपर्टी, प्लांट एंड इक्विपमेंट।
आप तो उस बात पे करते हैं जैसे ओम के अंदर 3 ध्वनि होती है ना, आ को बोलो तो यहाँ पे होता है, और ओ बोलो तो यहाँ आता है, माँ होता है तो तीसरी ध्वनि पेट से निकलती है। तो 3 ध्वनि को आप पूरी तरह से यूज कर सकते हैं।
नहीं करना पड़ता है सर, अच्छा तो मजा आती नहीं तो सर ये कॉमन लाइन बोलते जाओ, स्लाइड पे है बोलते जाओ, तो उसमें मजा नहीं आएगा। एंड मोर सो इन वेबिनार सर।
बिल्कुल सर।
एनीवे चलो, बहुत अच्छा लगा आपको सबको देख के,
कितने
सालों के बाद आपको देखे। हाँ सर, हाँ
सर आपने आज समझ दिया,
का स्पेशल,
बहुत अच्छा लगा सर।
रवसिया जी का आपके लिए स्पेशल आया सर। यू हैव सच अ वंडरफुल पर्सनालिटी, थैंक्स अ लॉट।
माय प्लेजर सर, बहुत अच्छा लगा। आप कितने अरसों के बाद आपसे मिल रहे हैं सर।
ग्रेट सर,
आवर प्लेजर सर।
कोविड जाए तो फिर दोबारा आपको यहाँ बुलाया जाए सर।
आएंगे जरूर। ज्ञान मिश्रा जी, आपको पता है 2018 में मैं यूएस गया था, तब मेरे बाजू में एक सज्जन बैठे थे, उनका नाम मैंने आपको दिया था एंड आपको उनका नाम दिया था, तब भी मैं आपको याद करा था, फ्लाइट में याद करा था सर।
याद है सर।
हाँ
नहीं आपने उस समय कुछ कन्वर्सेशन मेरा आपसे हुआ था इस मैटर पे।
यस। तो आप इस बात का सबूत है कि आप हमारे दिल में हैं सर।
अरे सर, so nice of you, sir.
थैंक यू जी।
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
हम और आप बात कर लेंगे सर, एंड विल कोऑर्डिनेट, एंड बाकी जो है ना,
बिल्कुल बिल्कुल उसको वो आप ही पूरा करेंगे सर।
हाँ कर दूंगा सर।
सर सॉरी फॉर इंटरप्शन।
चलिए सर, थैंक यू सर।
थैंक यू सर।
Sir, can we get these slides?
Yes, yes, we will.
सर मैं स्लाइड दे दूंगा, बिल्कुल दे दूंगा आपको सर। डेफिनेटली आई विल शेयर द स्लाइड्स विद यू सर।
Thank you, sir.
ये तो कम से कम बनता है, कम से कम बनता है।
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Bye. See you. Good night. Take care. All of it.
Nice.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Request all the participants to do join tomorrow at 4 p.m. again, and you need to definitely join minimum 5 sessions out of all 6 to get the certificate when we talk about. See you tomorrow.
पीतम जी, एक गुजारिश है, बिनती आपसे, अनुरोध है कि प्लीज आप मुझे फीडबैक शेयर कीजिएगा प्लीज।
Surely, sir.
पॉसिबल है तो हाँ।
Surely there are lots of positive feedbacks coming, and we shall share with you the feedback after the series also, sir.
No problem, sir. No problem. जब भी आपको समय उचित है, जब भी आपको कर सकते हैं कीजिएगा। No issue.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Anything, you call me anytime, sir. Companies Act में section 73, 76, 185, 186 is काफी, उसमें मैंने बहुत अध्ययन किया हुआ है सर। And in Bombay, people call me synonyms of section 73 and 185 and 186.
क्या बात है सर। फिर तो एक दिन समय आपका अलग से और लेंगे सर।
Always sir, always sir। ठीक है।
चलिए, thank you sir, thank you.
All of you take care. God bless you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you, Peetam.
Thank you,
Thank you,
sir.
Gyan ji.
Yes.
Thank you, Vipul. Thank you, Shubham. Thank you, Shivam.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Sujan.